It's Friday.
Don't care. I got to tell you, I love it when you go live, and that's the moment that your dad decides to do the Usain Bolt dash for the door. It's amazing. He's had like all morning. No, let's wait until we're about to go live, and then I'm going to dash like no one can see me.
Do you know what? I'm pleased.
Like Barry Allen, he is. It's like Barry Allen.
No, but I'm pleased he can still dash.
I'm stunned he can still dash. It's fantastic. You know, you've got an amazing dad. Alexander Listenfeld's got an amazing dad. Jimmy, who I had the pleasure of meeting, and what a guy. Some people just have kind of an authority and just a charisma and stuff like that. Things, let's face it, Phil, you could only dream of. And he
do a Peggy Lee impersonation there, because in Peggy Lee, you know how she in Lady and the Tramp, she sings "What a dog." I thought you were going to say "What a guy." You know,
at first out of the trap today, wearing the colours of Her Majesty the Queen, is Emma Webb, looking a little bit skittish there as she goes down to the start. Emma Webb, first out in the men's radio station handicaps 11 o'clock stakes here at Kempton Park. Well done, Ems. I think people forget that we started off right. I'm going to explain a few things which people may or may not know. I may have to disappear. If I do, I can't help it. It's something. It's one of those things where they will be
hilarious.
Oh, hello. I have not seen you lately. C'est Françoise Pascal. Oui, je connais. Quel dommage. Je suis très désolé.
Well, quite.
There you go. When I was a kid. Well, before you were born, when I was a little kid, they used to have a Learn French show on TV. And it was called Suivez la piste.
What was it called?
I'm not joking. It was called Suivez la piste, which is follow the word. Suivez la piste. And people used to say, I went down to the pub, I got a bit Suivez la piste. Let's dash from France. Let's dash to a beautiful arrondissement in Paris, up to Faye, where Susli are saying, hello, guys. Esther Windsor, good morning. Russ and Phil, hello there. Je suis occupé avec ma fille. Oh, Françoise Pascal. She's the Françoise Truffaut of sexy French women. She's making a movie called Cold Sun.
Oh.
Ooh. Science fiction? That should be like science fiction or something. So she says, Je suis très occupé avec mon film. It means I'm very, very busy with my film, Cold Sun. So, Françoise, as we're nosy, are you writing it, directing it, starring in it, making the coffees? What are you doing with it? Oh, Emma Jane Taylor. This is a nice one. Go on, read this one out, Philip.
Hi, boys. Just in and out today. Hope you've had an amazing week, and congrats on your award nomination, Emma.
Oh, bless you. We're excited. I got to tell you, we're excited about that. That's excited. If you win, I'll have to buy Phil lunch.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, this is a good one. Emma Jane Taylor.
I have helped victory.
Yeah. Now, here's a good one from Esther Ray. Morning, Russ, darling. Well, you can say hello to Phil as well. Esther, I've got a question for you. As you're my favourite leser. Here's the thing. Right? She's my favourite leser. She knows that.
Oh, my God.
This is what we call each other. She knows that. That's what we call each other. It's all right. She can't take offence because she started it.
Yeah, others might. Anyway. Oh, God.
You can't take offence on behalf of Esther's behalf if she does it as a gag. This is the point.
Do you know the day and age in which we live in? It's amazing people don't take a gate, never mind offence.
Yay, I'm with you on that one, baby. Now, Esther, I was thinking of buying a Renault Clio, and I was thinking of going on Virgin Broadband, but presumably to do that, I have to be a lesbian, according to the adverts.
Oh.
Is that what it says? I'm sorry. I don't... What am I... Esther, you're an expert. You're speaking on behalf... What's the deal? Esther Ray, just such a lovely person. If she had a hairbrush...
From Esther Ray to Esther Windsor. Hello,
Esther Windsor. Fine pair of shoulders, show off. Mr. Laddy-da got a sucked in. Go on.
Yes. Sue Sleet says, guys, so pleased to hear you up for the APA award. Get everyone to vote for you. Sue, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, I believe that whenever I see these programs on I'm not comparing us to television, by the way. Well, I sort of am, but I'm sort of not. Whenever I see these programs on television when they're nominated for awards and they keep getting people to say, please vote for us, please vote for us, I always think it's a bit vulgar. People have got to vote because they want to vote, not because they're being forced in.
Yeah, they got it. This is nice. Thanks to Esther Ray, I'm now an honorary lesbian. Bless you. That's really, I appreciate that, which means I can buy a Renault Clio or get Virgin Broadband. Hey, because when they ask me to fill in the box, I say, Esther Ray says I'm an honorary lesbian. Good. I'm liking this.
This is just going to be the longest 3 hours of my life. I can feel it. But anyway.
No, it isn't. You don't know it. She's so lovely. She's a very, very talented singer and writer, by the way. Now, let's go back to Françoise Pascal, because any excuse.
I'm quietly confident her sexuality's got nothing to do with that. But anyway.
It does, because all her posts are very funny about that. That's the point. God's sake, that's the point. She's not discussing, Van Gogh versus Jackson Pollock, and I go, oh, you're a lesbian. That would be ridiculous.
We're being actually, do you know what? We're being very responsible today on the show.
Yeah, why?
We're encouraging people to follow the rules.
Gee.
Rather than say, rather than where our locations are. Okay, rather than telling everyone where our locations are, which of course could be a bit of
to the high street above the kebab shop.
Yeah, which of course could be a bit of a security risk. Then we've got RK, who's encouraging everyone to wear a mask, not because of coronavirus, he just doesn't like looking at you. And you've got thank you. And you've got me encouraging everyone to stay 2 meters apart, because frankly, if anyone comes near me, I want to hit them. So I think
you should hit them. Then we can all post bail for you and make you save the Hertfordshire one. Françoise Pascal, I am producing the film and I've been busy on this, but enjoying producing up to my apples with paperwork, moving to Elstree next month. Oh, Christ, should be near you, moving to Elstree next month. You can pop in for tea.
Oh, my God.
Hey.
That made me very happy.
Hey, talking of films, you're not going to believe this. Out of the blue, yesterday, late last night, when I was feeling down in the dumps for reasons which I may discuss in a bit. When I say down in the dumps, I mean subterranean, to be honest with you. And I got a message from a guy who's a very well-known film producer. Russ, would you like to be in my next film? We're shooting Sunday. Can you come? My very first movie. Thank you very much. Thank you, Franz. Thank you, Franz. That's a wonderful sound of Mr. Phil Dave there. Let's see what he did on the clappermeter.
And Andy Lucas says, good morning, Simon Bachman.
What's that? Say that again?
I said, Andy Lucas says, good morning, Simon Bachman.
Okay, Russ with the Welsh accent again. You're just jealous because Françoise Pascal is making a film. Esther Pascal, do you need a sound? Oh, look at this. This is good. So, hey, Françoise, if you need a soundtrack, Esther your girl. She's really, really, really good. I'm going to put you crazy kids together. She's really, really good.
This is like the meeting of creative minds here. This is very exciting.
It is. It is good. Oh, hang on a minute. I've got to be hang on. Well, have I got to be a leser now?
Oh,
to wear a mask. That's exciting. I'll be honest with you. It's a little bit exciting. Now, Phil's very uncomfortable with this because he doesn't know Esther Ray and thinks that we're suddenly going to get letters of complaint. What the hell?
Yes,
we're not going to get letters of complaint. I would never go there unless they were doing gags in the first place. It's like the gags with. All right, let's be universally fair here. It's like the gags with Timmy Alexis Carrington Ward, who is the campest person I know. And trust me, we know some very camp people. That'd be ridiculous. It's part of the gag. It's who it is. That's what he wants. That's part of the banter.
Francois said that apparently Gordon's cousin is her composer.
Gordon's I'm completely lost here now. I can't keep up with we got the many things. Dave Sleet, hello Dave. I think Mr. Sleet, frankly. Hey, you're having. Wait a minute, it's 11:10, Sen Munro, film writer and script writer. This one's for you. I'm having a steak sandwich in your honor. Whoa!
Look, Gordon's cousin.
Oh, Brian Bennett. You're joking me, Françoise. What? Do you know? You don't know who Brian Bennett is, do you?
Brian Bennett's a composer.
Nice guess, nicely fielded, but I'm afraid no. We have to take a bit more accurate. King's College, Cambridge. Can you take it?
Okay,
Kane. Brian Bennett
He's from the Shadows.
You've just looked it up, you little cheater.
Me? You never said I can't look it up. You said just
come on, that's not knowing stuff.
Brian Bennett else knows stuff in this day and age, don't you know? That's why everyone's an expert on coronavirus. Because
everyone's a bloody world expert on anything you like. Politics, health. You know, Doreen, the hairdresser from Stoke-on-Trent, is a genius. She doesn't need to go to medical school for even 5 minutes. Sen, that's a very moody picture of you. You look very good looking in that picture, but I've met you.
Very scary.
Very good picture, Sen, man. Oh, Shana Tova to you. To bless you. Happy New Year.
Yes, 21.
Could it get any freaking worse?
Happy New Year in Hebrew.
And bless you, Esther. I appreciate it. Anyway, Brian Bennett is the drummer with the Shadows, has been the drummer with the Shadows. He was the original house drummer at the Two Eyes, Esther Ray will know this, the Two Eyes Coffee Bar in Soho. He was the house drummer there. And then he joined Hank Marvin and Bruce Welsh, and they became the Shadows, and they've been the same three. And then Jet Harris came in, and Tony Meehan came in, and various other people came in and out. But when I think of the Shadows, I think of Brian Bennett on his kit, with the great Bruce Welsh, who's charming, Hank Marvin, who I've always wanted to meet, and Hank looks exactly the same. It's incredible. I'm hitting the whammy bar. I was hitting the whammy bar there.
One of the most beautiful sounds.
That is, when you crank, I got that CD in the car, and every now and then I just I shove it up really loud, and it's just fantastic when it comes back, and it kind of swells. It's beautiful. Tony Meehan was the first. No, I think he was. I think Ed Grossman. You would know better than I. Sometimes Brian Bennett actually watches the show, which is a huge thrill for me, which is why I wear my paradiddle shirt and all my other drum stuff, just in case he does. So Tony Meehan was the first drummer. I'm not going to get too far into this, but Brian Bennett's a terrific drummer, and still composing, still writing, great. So he's working with Francois Pascal. There you go.
We've got the most busy show today.
I know we have.
I think we should probably a little bit about what's coming up, because otherwise it might come as a shock to people.
It comes as a shock to me.
A little later on, at about midday today, we are going to meet Simon Martin. Now, Simon, he was in the Royal Marines. He's going to talk about his career when he was a police constable as well. He's also going to be talking about battling PTSD and depression. So it's going to be quite heavy, but a really worthwhile topic, a really important one that we absolutely must discuss and look at. At 1 o'clock this afternoon, we are going to be speaking to Anna Hood, who's a researcher at a research fellow. I beg your pardon. How rude of me, a researcher. That makes sound so common. I'm so sorry.
Fellowette. A research fellowette.
No, you can't divide things up into sex.
Trying to be equal here, man. I'm trying to be, I've sorted out Esther Ray. I'm trying to be helpful.
It's research fellow at Great Ormond Street Child Health Institute at University College London. My goodness me, there's some very long business cards she's got.
Thick as a plank. What does she know?
We're actually going to be talking about attitudes. We're going to be talking about attitudes towards COVID-19. So that's something.
Oh boy, that's going to kick off. Phil's going to go raving nuts. I'm going to pile him. Phil, I'm going to let Phil lead that, because he's going to go bonkers.
Okay,
he's going to go bonkers.
That might be an option time for them to come and collect your sofa at that time. I'm just saying.
I wasn't going to tell. All right. Do you want to explain why I may have to disappear? Thank you.
Then at 1:30, we'll catch up with television news and stuff to watch over this weekend with Chantel.
What happened to Gail? Where's Gail? Where's Gail in all of this?
Excuse me. I was going to say before all of that, and then you wanted to start talking about your sofa. It's not my fault.
You started the sofa conversation. I didn't start the sofa conversation. This is worse than the lesbian conversation. I take more offense over the sofa than... Anyway, I'm an honorary lesbian. Thank you, according to Esther Ray, and that's good enough for me.
Well, you like women, so it's a start, I suppose.
I love women. I love. Okay. I've said to Esther, it's a phase. It's a phase.
Anyway, right,
Timmy. It's like Timmy Alexis Carrington Ward. It's a phase.
God, is any wonder you and I haven't made it to national radio yet? Anyway, right?
I can't imagine why.
Anyway, on today's program, first,
we're having too much fun here.
Clearly, our first guests are actually waiting in the digital green room, looking suitably. I'm delighted to say, looking suitably horrified as well. I can't really say.
They're sitting there going, "What what we got on here?"
Yeah, steady on.
Hey, wait a minute, Esther Ray. I'm going to say something to you.
Shall we leave you to it?
If my current partner is listening, I'm going to get smacked in the mouth. But Esther Ray said, "Yeah, we can go out and pull together." Because you know what I'm saying. So I went out with somebody who was bi, right? And if ever I sort of smiled at the waitress and the waitress smiled back, she'd say, "Really? Want to play that game?" I'd sit there going, "Whoa, I've so lost this. I have so lost this." It's very impressive, Esther.
She turned around to you and said, "Bye." Now, let's see it. Meet our first guests today, who are, like I said, suitably waiting in the digital green room, Gail Nichols and Jade Tonkinson. And I believe that we can sort of bring them on the screen now. Oh, look, there's Gail. There's Jade. Hello.
Oh, there she is.
Hello.
This is like a sort of a dumbed down version of Loose Women between all four of us. It's going to be excellent. This is how
Don't you dare call my friend Gail Nichols dumb. You'll be banned from the north of England.
Scary, right? Anything on the Watford map and all that. Anyway, right, Gail, you are the founder of Gail Nichols Fitness, which we've spoken to you on the show before, so welcome back. It's a delight to have you. And Jade, we didn't see you last time, so perhaps you would care to explain sort of who you are.
Yeah, of course. So I'm a very loyal follower of Gail Nichols Fitness. So in the last 12 months, Gail has helped, coached and supported me to lose 6.5 stone.
I'm sorry, what?
Have you looked down the back of the sofa, Jade? Because that's why I find most of the stuff I lose.
Well, there's still definitely a bit in a bingo wing somewhere.
Have we got?
No.
Have we got the pictures that Gail sent over? Because these pictures are a sensation.
Do you know what? I have not seen photos, so I'll try and dig those out. I'll get those on screen in a moment. But can I just say, sorry, did you say 6.5 stone?
Yes. 6.5 stone.
Obviously, we don't have a live studio audience, but I'm quietly confident that if we did, they would be doing this right now.
Oh, thank you.
That's incredible. Honest to God, I'm struggling to lose 6.5 pounds.
It's not easy.
No, it really isn't. And actually, you know, I would say that what seems to be even more challenging is during these times that oh, he's got dumbbells out. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Right. Right, he can't hear us.
10 more.
Yeah, he can't hear us because he's got the headphones on. Anyway, so whilst he's busy playing around with the dumbbells, there he is. Right, welcome back. How nice of you to pop in. Anyway, Steve Harris, straight off, says, "Wow, 6.5 stone, amazing." Do you know what I think is even more admirable, Jade, though, is that sort of everyone else I know that during this period of lockdown and during this time of isolation, where most people have been getting very down and feeling very flat about themselves, a lot of people have turned to food as something to comfort. And I can't help but think that it makes it even more of an impressive achievement.
Well, thank you. It was a really weird time that we were all still going through, isn't it? But yeah, so, you know, I'd already started my weight loss journey last September. And so when it came to March and we went into lockdown, I was thinking, well, I'm determined not to undo the good work I've started. I was furloughed from my job. So I went through a really weird time where I didn't know what day it was, what time it was. You know, I couldn't leave the house and I didn't know when things were going to change, which, you know, from a mental health perspective was quite unsettling. And so actually Gail switched to online classes and I thought, great, you know, and it gave me such good structure to my day because every morning I got up, switched on Gail Nichols Fitness, did my workout. So I was making sure I was getting up at a good time, and then that really set me up for the day, and actually put me in a great mood. I've got to tell
you, I'm going to come. Let me put my cards on the table here. I've known Gail for some considerable time.
Well done,
yeah, and we're still speaking. And I assumed, and I'm going to embarrass Gail, and I don't care, but Jade, I bet you agree, I assumed that when I saw Gail, and as I said, I've seen so many pictures and everything like that, and videos, she was about 35. I actually thought she was 35. And when she then revealed her age, I'm like, whatever she's on and whatever she's doing, I want some of that, because It's amazing. But I'll tell you what, Jade, up in her attic, there is a painting that's like that. It's a portrait of Dorian Nichols. During this lockdown, as Phil knows, I really started to go potty. I couldn't bear it. And I thought, I'm going to come out of this looking like, I don't know, like Christopher Biggins on a very bad day. And I thought, no, I can't. And I'd been dying for Gail to do sort of London stuff. And then it was a weird blessing that instead of doing everything live, you went on Zoom because of the lockdown and everything. And I managed, I don't know how, to persuade Gail to start training me twice a week. And we've been doing this for a couple of months now, maybe.
Ooh.
I can't tell you. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
Gail, just between you and me, what's he like? What's he like as a pupil? Is he good?
He's very well behaved.
Oh, good.
He is very well behaved, I have to say. No, he's very good, to be fair. Yeah. He does everything I ask. He's good form, good technique.
You have to do as you're told with Miss Whiplash.
You don't muck about with Gail.
No.
Give me 3 more. It's like, oh,
Gail, we need someone like you to produce this program in that case.
It's different things. I take the view, Gail's very kindly giving me like 2 hours a week on this. I'm not going to waste her time. And also, if anybody knows me in real life, that I am very, very determined. If I decide to do something, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And if I've undergone a fitness course with Gail, I want it to be, to be pushed as hard as I can and to make a difference. And it's great. I can't thank Gail. I can't thank Gail enough. Let's get back to you, Jade. Mentally, there's so many things that Phil and I want to ask you. Number one, what mental difference in your attitude, how you feel about yourself when you've done this amazing weight loss? How do you feel?
It's made a massive difference mentally, and actually it was never about, the focus was never about just losing weight. I started I need to overhaul my lifestyle, my health, for longer term health and well-being. I was starting to get a bit concerned that if I didn't tackle it at some point, it would all catch up with me, and I felt quite embarrassed when I went out. I found myself making excuses not to do things with friends, when we all could do things with friends.
Can I ask you a very personal question, Jade?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You'd obviously put on some weight. Was that because you were, I don't know, were you comfort eating? Had you thought, I just don't care? Were you a bit depressed? What had caused this situation?
I think it was a very gradual thing that crept up on me. That I think I certainly have an issue, or had an issue, with my portion control. And I would think nothing of having my dinner, then eating unhealthy snacks. And it was only really when I got to a stage where actually I was probably doing a bit of secret eating as well. And I was hiding the evidence, and I was eating in the car when I knew I'd be on my own.
Oh, you sneaky thing.
I know, putting the wrappers straight in the outside bin. And actually, when I thought about it, I was like, well,
what are you like?
I thought, I know I'm doing it wrong because I'm hiding it from everybody.
And then when the weight started to come off with Gail, several things, because one, did you think, I can't do this initially, and then you started to see the results, and how did that make you feel?
Yeah, so I think when you start on any new, sort of health and well-being program, whether it's healthy eating or exercise, any change is always hard, isn't it? Because you've got habits, and we are creatures of habit. So to try and change your ways is always difficult, no matter what part of your life you apply that to. So yeah, it was really hard to begin with. But Gail always gives really good options. So it's never about, you need to do 10 burpees. There are always other options. There are things that you can do. She always encourages everybody to work at their own pace and at their own level. And I certainly at the beginning spent a good large percentage of the class lying on the floor, trying to catch my breath.
No.
you know, so as Gail
Jade,
did
if it makes you feel any better, Jade, I can assure you that during our sessions, I go, you're in your own time. I'm going, so you're not. I can assure you, you are not alone. You know, trust me, you're really not.
You know, within a couple of weeks.
I just found you can see that.
What's that?
There.
Oh, can you see that, Phil?
Wow.
Can you put it closer? Can you put it right up to the lens, Gail?
Right up to the camera.
Right up to the camera.
Oh, wow.
Is that?
Can you see?
Make
This
you
is
see
fantastic.
Jade, when you look at that, does that make you think that's me, or does that look like someone else now?
It looks like somebody else. And actually, I never liked, you know, when Gail asked me for some before photographs, I struggled to find many because I'd avoided having my photograph taken. And I certainly didn't, you know, like publishing them on Facebook or on social media because I was embarrassed.
Just like Gail at Piccolino.
Exactly.
Every
Always
Friday.
feeling embarrassed.
Here I am.
Stood at that bar. Busy
Now,
Friday.
The thing I'd really like to talk about as well, Jade. So we've established it's really helped your whole mental situation. You feel better about yourself. You feel better mentally, you feel better physically. This is great. The thing that I love about Gail, I'll be perfectly honest, and the thing that I dislike about these things you get in the Daily Mail, etc., is there's no quick fix. This take this pill and you're going to look like Nicole Kidman in the morning is just bullshit. It's just nonsense. It takes time and dedication. Had you tried in the past any of these, you know, miracle pills and potions and all this garbage?
I've never been tempted to try any diet pills. I've had friends who have, and have had some very dodgy experiences. I've had some who've had some quite dodgy toilet experiences, shall we say. You know, we're taking diet pills and the effect that it has on when you ingest fat, and then what has to happen to that so that your body doesn't absorb it. I've had another friend who took some diet pills, and she said she felt like she was on drugs all the time because she was shaking. Wow. And she felt
you haven't got the name of those, have you?
She said she felt like she was on speed.
Fantastic. Well, it does. It is. That's what it does. It speeds everything up. The idea is it's meant to burn. Those are really.
Hang on. Just out of wild curiosity, how the heck do your friend know that? But anyway,
I don't know.
Black Range Rover, and they hang around on street corners. Have a guess. With blacked out windows.
Yeah. So I've thankfully never gone to those types of extremes and tried pills and diets. You know. Because, like you say, there is no magic fix. You know, you've got to look at what you're putting into your body and what you're giving out.
It's totally so, and I think Gail is the living example, as indeed are you, Jade. That this whole notion of, like, you know, everybody wants everything like that. You can't get it like that. It takes months. It might take years. You can't get it overnight. Gail, do you have people who've said, "Oh, I've tried this potion"? Come on.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a whole lifestyle change, really. And no matter what you choose to do, whether, you know, you wanted to go down, say, the gastric band route, or like say the potion and, you know, the tablets and all the rest of it, you know, at the end of the day, a few months down the line, you can't sustain. It's hard to sustain, you know, unless you are completely dedicated and you're focused. And this is your life from now on. You know what I mean? So it just takes time and dedication. Jade's proof in that, you know, in this. So, you know, because you've worked so hard, haven't you, Jade, over the last sort of, well, it's probably taken about 8 to 10 months, and you've worked so hard with the exercise, with her portion controlling everything. But your whole mindset and your whole lifestyle has changed now, hasn't it, for the better? And you're reaping the rewards now. It is so much more rewarding than, I think, taking that easy fix, really. You know,
isn't it? Gail, technically speaking, because I know a lot of people try these quick fix nonsenses. Is it true? Well, my understanding is that the moment you stop taking them, of course, you balloon back up to where you were. Is that right?
You could do. You could do, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's about your calories in and calories out, really. So if you're on some kind of, powder drinks and things, or juicing diets, after 2 or 3 weeks of that, your body will be craving just normal food, wholesome food, and then obviously, you probably go on to just fall off the wagon, really. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to be in a calorie deficit to where you want to get to. Jade, I don't know how far you want to go, and do you want to go any further? You're quite happy skin right now, aren't you, at this weight? You may want to lose maybe another stone, perhaps, but
Blimey O'Reilly, wow.
You look fantastic.
Jade, I don't think I'm allowed to do this.
Really interesting that you use the expression fall off the wagon, because is eating food ever an addiction? It's just each one eats.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think I have a sugar addiction, and I think just like any other kind of addiction, whether it's alcohol or anything else, the more sugar I have, the more I crave, and the hungrier I am, the bigger the highs and lows.
What's your sugar take? What do you take when you say sugar? You're obviously not going to a bag of Tate and Lyle and snorting it. What do you what is your sugar and what was your sugar intake, I should say? What was it?
I've never sunk that low, Russ, that I was there with a bag of Tate and Lyle and a spoon.
Well, it's not that we don't know. Phil and I are strangers to your world.
If you were to stand with a spoon, not that I'd ever encourage this, if you ever were to stand with a spoon of Tate and Lyle and just melt it, the worst you do is end up with caramel. So, it's not really terrible, but
no, but it is an addiction.
So if I could just get Jade to answer my serious question. So was it chocolate and stuff?
Yeah, chocolate, crisps, sweets. I was eating a lot of junk food, a lot of beige food as well. So my food now has a lot more colour to it.
Hang on, what's beige food?
I don't know what that is. What does that mean? What's beige food?
You never seen people's dinners when all they have is a plate of beige. So, they've got chips on there. They've got, and everything on the plate is beige.
Beige? What?
How normal are these two? I'm not following.
So hang on, what do you mean? Like pastas, breads, potatoes?
Yeah.
Roast ferret. Roast racing pigeon.
And appetizing, isn't it, Jade?
And it has a lot more flavour as well.
Are we really slow? I've never heard of this.
Michael Swindle, quick question. Does Phil's baking count as beige?
Are you a beige food eater, Phil?
Oh, I know. I didn't realise. I think I am now, and I didn't realise I was. I like pasta, but I don't know whether or not it makes me a beige.
Gail, I'm very glad you're on. And Jade, pay attention to this. Phil Dave.
I thought you were going to say take leave. How rude. Happy to have Gail on. You weren't happy to have Jade. What's the matter with you?
I'm very happy to have everybody. I'm just happy to be
unbelievable.
Now, Mr. Phil Dave, who I've known for many years, is the size of an HB pencil when we were at school. Think of his head as the little rubber eraser, and the rest of him is the pencil. He eats for 20 people. I have never seen. He always eats. And he's so slim. Which is why yet another reason why I hate him. Why is he so slim? And if I walk past Greg's, I put on half a stone.
Right. Hang on a second. Well, might I suggest, and in that case, and allow me to, seeing as we are using my temple as the example here, might I be so kind as to answer? I might suggest that for me, it's more about eating little and often. I wouldn't stack up the plate sky high and then scoff that. So, and I think eating little and often has a lot to do with it.
Yes, I agree.
That's your expert
and
opinion?
you probably eat. Oh, who's talking? Me?
Oh, waiting eagerly for you guys. You're going to come back with something.
I'll tell you what, let's take a vote. Let's find out who's the fit sex.
I think Phil's eating just enough calories to suit his needs.
I'll live with that. Just enough calories.
And you're not overeating, are you, Phil?
No, I don't think I
Just
overeat.
enough calories.
No, I mean, I don't think I overeat. Russ will probably tell you otherwise. I don't believe so.
No, he doesn't overeat. He
Can I
just
just say,
eats.
Ramsey makes a very good point here. Ramsey says hummus is beige. So Ramsey adds a pinch of salt or beetroot for more colour and nutrients.
For more
Spinach, he adds spinach.
Yay, perfect.
Is that a
Yes.
good thing? Okay. Okay.
Just to make it more vibrant, more appetizing.
Actually,
no, it's not the word beetroot. You've lost me. Now, Jade, how has everybody, family and friends, reacted to this fantastic weight loss, the whole new Jade Tonkinson who has emerged?
Well, I think obviously people didn't see me for a good few months. So yeah, everybody's been like, wow, look at you. And actually I do some voluntary work. And because of lockdown, I didn't do my voluntary work for about 6 months, and I'd done it for 10 years. And I went back and one of the ladies actually didn't recognize me and introduced herself to me because she thought I was new.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's the
And then
ultimate compliment.
I said that to her.
How lovely.
I said, I've been here 10 years. I said, I'm a whole new Jade.
It's fantastic. May I say, and we've not met before, but your whole demeanor is very upbeat. You're very smiley and you're very upbeat. Were you like that before in any way?
Yeah, I've always been a smiley, happy person. I think it's important to try and be positive. But if I'm honest, internally there were parts of me that I wasn't happy with. I think it's very easy for anybody to be critical of some aspect of themselves. And I was very happy with my life, but actually I felt like my body and my fitness didn't match up to how happy I was, and was holding me back in some aspects because, like I say, I was too embarrassed to do things. I'd make excuses. Whereas now, I'm always the one suggesting things, volunteering for things, saying to my niece, why don't we go zip lining? Whereas before I'd be worried, am I over the weight limit? Will I be embarrassed?
Zip lining?
Yeah.
Jade, take it easy now. Let's not go crazy just because you've lost this huge amount of weight. Take it easy now, zip lining. You're giving me mountaineering. Phil, what are you doing?
I know all of this talk, you see, of
He's gone
food,
to get something to eat.
I thought, no, I've not gone to get something to eat. I thought I'd gone to check on the hot to see how it's done. It's not done too bad.
Phil makes bread every Friday. It's a London thing, right? So he makes bread every Friday. He's just made that. Is that beige, girls? Is that beige? I can't see.
Is that beige,
ladies?
I'm not sure.
Beige.
Yes, I like to colour it with lots of salad, lots of tomatoes, lettuce.
No, Gail.
It's definitely a case of here's one I made earlier.
Okay, well, it looks pretty good. I don't cook. I don't bake. That is good. Kanam Janur, you are what you eat, Phil. And usually in my case, my words. It looks good on you, especially with your new hairstyle. He looks great. Phil looks great. All right, I don't know what he's doing now.
Thank you,
Gail,
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
hang on, I'm just taking these off the sticky thing. Hang on, there you go. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Fabulous. Hang on. Let's look inside there.
But everything is fine in moderation.
Jade, how did you first find and hear about Gail and her fitness camps and everything? How did you do that?
So I've known Gail for probably 10, 11 years. So Gail originally helped me to lose weight when I got married 11 years ago. So she was a fitness instructor at the local gym that I was a member of. And actually, I was about the weight now. Like I am the weight now that I was when I got married. So Gail helped me to lose some weight, get into my wedding dress, and get fit. And, and I did keep up with it, for a couple of years, didn't I, Gail? But then, I don't know what happened. I think I decided not to go, and things sort of slowly started to slide from there, really.
Can I ask you a personal question? And please, this isn't the BBC, so you can just say I'm not going there. So there's presumably a Mr. Tonkinson lurking about somewhere. He married you as you look now, and then suddenly there was more to love, shall we say? Trying to be a bit subtle. How's he feeling about getting his bride back 12 years later?
So he's always been very supportive, no matter what, and that's a lovely thing that, I've always felt loved, wanted, valued, and cherished, no matter what size I'm in. He's been my rock throughout this, but I couldn't have done it without him, because he's very much embraced our new lifestyle. He's very lucky. He's probably like Phil. He can afford to eat a lot more calories a day than I can. So, but he's been very much on board, and even he's commented on how tasty all of the food is, how nice it looks, how much he enjoys it.
Are there tiny Tonkinsons?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I just was going to wonder what the tiny Tonkinsons had to say on the whole thing. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, Gail touched on an interesting point earlier. Do you have a goal in mind, or are you just going to keep going and everyone's going to think she's getting too thin, I'm worried about her? Or when do you think enough's going to be enough?
I'm not too sure. When I started, I never had a big goal, because for me, to have even said I need to lose 3 stone was a very daunting, overwhelming prospect, and not one that I could really get my head around. So I very much looked on a month-by-month basis and said, well, instead of having this massive mountain to climb, which is going to be hard and difficult and take a long time, I'm going to set myself easier, shorter challenges that I'm going to focus my efforts on a monthly basis, that I can then, reward myself and give myself a pat on the back at the end of the month, when I've done it, or, and I can look back.
Have you managed, Jade? Have you managed to retrain the way you think towards food then now? Or do you think there's still a danger that you could slip it back into old habits?
I think I've definitely developed some really good habits. I am very mindful that I wouldn't want to start slipping back. And I think, there is always that danger. And I think that's, I mentioned about, I think I'm a sugar addict, and I genuinely do think I'm addicted to sugar. And so I think that's something that I'm going to have to be mindful of, going forward.
Russ is something very similar. He's what we call in Yiddish mushsugar, which is, to anyone who doesn't know what that means, it just means he's a little bit, how can I put it? Yes, crackers. Yeah. But anyway, but Gail, seriously, how easy is it to retrain someone's attitude towards health and fitness in your experience? So you must have dealt with loads of people who have been in Jade's situation, and maybe who are in mine as well, where they don't actually really know what the right things to eat are. And sometimes it can have, frankly, horrible effects on it. And I know it has horrible effects on me. I know that Russ sort of says, oh, look at the state of me, is the size of an HB pencil. The reason I am like this is because I genuinely do worry about what I eat a lot of the time. I eat a lot, but I worry about what I'm actually eating. And I'm very scarcely while I eat what I class as rubbish. So I don't bother with fast food and stuff like that, but that just might be one element. The point is, how easy or difficult is it to retrain the way someone thinks towards food and fitness?
It depends on the actual person, but it doesn't take long. To be fair, within a couple of weeks, I'm getting messages through from my clients to say, I feel fantastic, feel more confident, I've lost X amount, and so I don't think it takes long, but it's obviously up to that individual to stick with the plan and actually want to make that change. Do you know what I mean? So it's up to them to make the change. With my
to try and curb that habit. So I suppose what I'm trying to get at is that could I call it the cold turkey period? In other words, what's the moment where you find yourself sort of changing your habit and really struggling your way through it? How long do you think it takes before someone will actually say, I'm over it now?
Yeah. They do say it takes about 21 days to change habits. So, it probably is about a month. And then, you're feeling a lot better in yourself, and you're feeling like this is the way forward, So, it's okay. Somebody's knocking on my door. He's come up to the window, the skip man. What? Just put me off. So I think
it's not like we're live or anything.
Don't worry about it. Here's a question. Jade, here's a question for you. It's from, I've lost it. It's from Kimmy Lashmar. And it says, are you on... Oh, I love it when you're about to read something and signs come up. Right. Is Jade on furlough? Does she think that time out helped to get disciplined in a daily routine?
So I'm no longer on furlough. So I went back to work at the beginning of June, and I was initially working completely from home, which was great because that meant I didn't have commuting times, so I still had some extra time in the day. But then in the last couple of weeks, I have started to go back into the office on a part-time basis. I started my journey before coronavirus. So I started, sort of with Gail sort of last October. So I'd already started to develop those habits. I always think you always fill your time. You always think you're busy. But actually, if you want to do something, you can usually make some time.
Totally.
In your week.
Oh,
it's 30 minutes.
If what you want to achieve.
It's 30 minutes of your day to make time to listen to it.
Do you know what? It's so true though, because for me, I know that with me, I made this pledge right at the start of lockdown and everything like this, and because I'd managed to get in. I think I need to go back a little further. Okay, sorry to make this about me. I know that you two are here to talk about you, but hey, let's talk about me. But I know that I made this pledge about, I'm going to say about maybe 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, that I was going to stick to an exercise regime. Someone had recommended to me, have you ever heard of a chap who's based in America called Shaun T? Have either of you heard of Shaun T? Yeah. Right. So Shaun T is probably known for his workout called the Insanity Workout. That's the one he's probably most famous for. Anyway,
I know that one.
Yeah, okay. So Insanity Workout is his most famous, but another one that he's done is what is called T25.
Yes.
Oh, right, okay. It's called T25. Now, T25 is sort of like the, if you will, the dumbed down version of Insanity, and it's only 25 minutes long. Great. Anyway, I decided to stick to that. And I was really rigid about it. I was so good, if I say to myself, really, really disciplined for quite a couple of months, probably a few months. And I definitely noticed a difference in terms of what I was eating, in terms of shape of the body and all of that. Whatever reason, I fell off the wagon. Okay, it completely went by the wayside. So I decided that I was going to get back into it at the start of lockdown. I thought, what a great time to do it. We're all working from home. There's nothing we can do. Can't go anywhere. Let's go for it. Couldn't get my head around it this time. I don't understand. Was it? Do you think that was because I knew what was coming?
Maybe. I don't know. What do you think, Jade? I mean, with us, we have very varied workouts, don't we?
Every day is different.
So
every day is a new
with that. Yeah, it is. So you do probably need that variety, Phil. You know what I mean? But T25 is perfect timing. 25, 30 minutes a day. I feel that's nothing of your day. When we're working online, when we've got our online boot camp, we're doing 30-minute workouts, aren't we? And Jay's still getting fantastic results. In fact, since online, you've lost a further 3.5 stone, haven't you? So she's been motivated enough to work out in a lounge with us every single day, and she fits it in around her schedule. And that's what everybody's doing right now, But I think 30 minutes of your day is nothing. If you set yourself 30 minutes and they're varied workouts, and you feel motivated to do them, I think, like you say, Phil, you've been there, you've done it, and thought, do I really want to do this again? The same old, burpees and floor climbers. We don't do burpees, do we, Jade?
Here's an interesting thing. Number one, I think if Gail gave me exactly the same routine twice a week, I would be bored stupid. And I never know what new horror she is going to unleash on me. And it's always something new. And I always go, oh, you are kidding. But there again, we push through and we get it. Every single man has obviously now fallen in love with Gail Nichols. I just want to tell you, especially Ken Elm-Janur and Ed Grossman, that she does have her partner for the last 8 million years is a David Gandy lookalike. He's ridiculously good looking. And they are the best looking couple in the entirety of the north of England, bar none.
Definitely.
Yeah, he really annoys me because not only is he charming and delightful, and talented, but he's horribly good looking and fit. So he can just go do one straight away because he gets on my nerves, to be honest with you. But they're great. So, can I be
but
very...
Ross, you should come to some of the online classes. He moans and groans his way through those classes more than any of us.
What a wimp. What a wimp.
But do you know what? It cheers me up no end.
Does he moan? Because he looks kind of ripped. Unfortunately, with Gail's partner, everybody, and I don't know what it is, they obviously don't sell them up north, but there's no buttons on his shirt. Have you noticed that? His shirt is always undone, strangely enough, like almost to his belt buckle. It must be, it's a shame, Gail. Buy some buttons and some thread. Come on.
I'll sort it
out. Yeah, look, it's not right for him, poor bloke. He must be getting chilly, especially with the northern winters coming. He might want at least a couple of buttons there. Are we allowed, Jade? And please say no if you're not comfy. Are we allowed to see you now? Because we see your face, it looks really slim and smiley. You look great. Are we allowed to do that, or is that rude?
Yeah, no, not at all. Let me try and stand up.
Wow.
So I don't know how much.
You have to go back. You have to go back.
Hang on. Let me tilt the camera around.
I'm sorry. You look fantastic. You look absolutely fantastic.
You can see better.
Wow. Bravo, you.
I'll do a Gail pose.
That's a Gail pose. That is fabulous. Bravo, you. No pills, no potions, just determination and having a great teacher in Gail.
Definitely. I couldn't have done it without Gail.
It's a weird thing, Jade. I don't know if you feel like this, and I feel you won't be able to answer this for once because it's just a personal thing. But I get the feeling, I'll put it this way, and then I'll ask you, I don't want to let Gail down. So when I train on a Monday and a Wednesday, right, I feel if I haven't made some progress and I don't give it 100%, I'm kind of letting her down, and I wouldn't want to do that. Do you kind of have a little bit of that feeling as well?
Yeah, she's very much. Her coaching style is encouraging and motivating. She's she's more of a carrot person rather than a stick. Right. I call her the smiling assassin. Because
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Because she asks you so nicely to do it that you feel you absolutely have to. Because she sat so nicely, such a lovely smile on her face. Whereas if she was shouting and horrible, then I don't think I would respond.
I would lose my temper, especially when my heart was coming through my chest. I think this is it. This is the coronary they've been warning me about. I'm just going to go. And so I it's very, very true. It's very true. Gail, how many people attended when you used to do the boot camp live? How many people used to rock up? It was crazy numbers, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, 100 people. Yeah, we'd have 2 venues because I left the gyms many years ago, and we set up in the community about 10 years ago. So we've been running boot camps for that long, and so just before lockdown, I'd be getting 50 at one venue, 50 at another, quite easy, as well as personal training and everything else. As the lockdown hit, we went online, and I'm still getting those big numbers. Fortunately, my fabulous fit fam followed me and supported us online as well. We've just gone outside, actually. We've just got to do door face to face, so that's fantastic. So we're back in the community seeing people again, which is wonderful because it's so much more fun, and it's better. And I think in a fitness boot camp style class compared to a gym when you're on your own and you get to know many people, it's a lot more sociable. The friends that Jade's made alone, haven't you, at boot camp over the years? Everybody knows Jade, and it's wonderful. People become friendly, they go out, they socialize. It's brilliant. So yeah, 100 people easily. Yeah, but it's amazing.
I mentioned that because people think, oh, what's you got, like 6 people, and you got a boot camp when they run it is 100 people a time. That's just screams success.
But then for some people that might be quite intimidating on a face-to-face basis. So I think if you're looking to start a journey, that's where doing something online can be quite good, because actually you're in a safe space in private, and and if you are out of breath, sweating, not looking your most attractive, I certainly don't look like this while I'm working out. There's nothing like.
I hope to God Gail never ever films me when I'm working. I actually look. You know, in things like Silent Witness, when they walk into the morgue and they say, "Hi, doctor. Well, I think it's vertical hemorrhaging here. I think he was strangled." That's what I look like. Well, no, it's just diabolical.
Oh, come now, Russell. It will be very embarrassing if they put on the death certificate, death by downward dog. That's not going to look
Death by downward dog.
I've not introduced Russ to burpees yet, Jade.
Oh,
think that
has he not
should
met
be on the
Colin the
card?
Cone?
I don't know what
No,
that
he
means.
hasn't. He
I
hasn't.
don't like this. Oh, that's me. Excuse me 1 minute.
Oh, he's off. Like, for heaven's sake, do you know what? Between the pair of us today, it's shocking. Like, none of us have stuck around for the whole interview. I'm so sorry. You two have been the only consistent, actually. Technically, we should get you two presenting the program. Russ and I would just dip in as we feel like it. Anyway, I do apologize. No, Russ did warn that he may have to disappear at any given moment. But look, whilst we do have this moment, I think it's very important that you both make sure that people know exactly where they can go, especially Gail, because obviously you are sort of promoting the work that you do. So if anyone wants any more information, Jade, it might be creepy if we ask them for where they go for more information, for you, if I'm honest with you. So let's focus on you for a second, Gail. More information on Gail Nichols Fitness. Where do they go? What do they do?
So yes, Gail Nichols Fitness. You can visit me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So you just put in Gail Nichols Fitness and it should pop up. But yeah, we run the boot camps monthly. So on the 1st of October, you know, we're off again with another online boot camp. So if you're out of the area, if you're living in London or up north, you know, we have people in Spain even, don't we, on the boot camp. So it's, you know, distance is not a problem anymore. So yeah, anybody can come and join, all ages, all levels and abilities, because obviously we, you know, cater for that too. We give lots of alternatives and modifications. Or visit me on my website, www.gailnicholsfitness.co.uk. And I also do personal training by Zoom. The online group with Facebook, if you're a little bit sort of self-conscious, nobody else can see you. That's the thing. On Facebook, you're in a group, you can see me, but I can't see you. Nobody else can see. Whereas in Zoom, if we had a Zoom set up, then obviously, like ourselves here, you can see one another. But you know, if you wanted to do personal training like
I've just
Russ
met the rudest person I've ever met in my life.
Gail, with your one of your Facebook sessions where people can't actually see you, do you ever worry that maybe they're just sitting there taking the proverbial because they're eating a donut and laughing at saying, "Haha, she thinks I'm doing a burpee," and then they do a very different style of burpee?
Yeah.
What?
I do worry. Funnily enough, Jade came online last night when I was teaching live, and I said, "Oh," we spoke afterwards about today's show, and I said to her, "Oh, have you just done the class?" She says, "No, I was just sat with a cup of tea watching. I'll be doing it in the morning." So yeah, probably a lot of it. But you know, that's the beauty of online. The workouts get saved in the group. If they can't make it live, then they can catch up at any time, and the majority do that. Because everybody's rejoining, so I'm presuming they must be doing it because we're coming up to our 7th online boot camp, so it must be working.
Just before we say adieu to the pair of you, because our next guest is very patiently waiting in the digital green room, might I say that we finished this message by Ed Grossman. He says, "Jade, in my capacity as a bloke, I think your size and shape is great. You should stay just as you are now."
Oh.
And there you go. That isn't a better compliment.
And I've been reading all of the comments, and there've been some lovely comments throughout the show, so thank you to everybody.
That's great. Now, Gail Nichols Fitness, if people want to get hold of you and know how to join in.
Russell, we've already done this, but she's welcome.
It's all right, because I was talking to the rudest person I have met in 2020. I've thrown him out.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry.
I've just had...
Whoa. Hang on a second. Sorry, Gail. We don't mean to interrupt. This is breaking news for you. What occurred, Russell?
They came in. They were very abrupt on the phone. They've just come in, been so rude, and I've just slung them out. End of story. So that whole situation.
Wow.
Thank you, British Heart Foundation. I must remember to support you again.
Right.
No
Okay.
one
Okay. We'll find out more about that in just a moment. But
Wow.
in the meantime, that Gail, just remind us one more time where people go for more information for you.
So yes, so Gail Nichols Fitness, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or www.gailnicholsfitness.co.uk, and just contact me and join us anytime, whether it's face to face if you're living in Staffordshire, anywhere around the world. Come and jump on board and get fit with us, and we'll look after you.
Well, Gail Nichols,
perfect.
Thank you very much indeed for making us all very self-conscious of how we all look. This is great. This is very good of you. Jade, fantastic.
Fabulous.
$1 million, I'm sure. Well done. And I hope that you do realize what an amazing achievement it is. And thank you both so much for talking to me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for all you do. And Jade, once again, from everybody at Men's Radio Station, congratulations. You look great. And what a great achievement. Bravo.
Goodbye, both. Thank you. Bye-bye. Goodbye. Wow.
Aren't they great? What lovely people. I can't recommend, I don't do endorsements, but Gail is not just a charming and lovely woman. She's really good at what she does. She's really good, very encouraging and great.
Amazing. Absolutely.
I'm trying to calm down, Phil. I'm trying to calm down because I honestly, I wanted to deck this guy. He was so rude.
We are going to talk about that in just a second, but just to
there's nothing else to talk about.
Just to remind everyone, I want to hear details. Just to remind everyone,
really don't.
Just to remind everybody that coming up a little later on, we'll be meeting Anna Hood. Now, Anna is a research fellow at Great Ormond Street Child Health Institute, University College London. She is going to be talking to us about attitudes towards COVID-19. That's coming up at around 1 o'clock. Then at 1.
You know what we have to do?
Oh, yes.
Anna Hood, riding through the glen. Anna Hood, on the radio for men, feared by the bad, loved by the good. Anna Hood, Anna Hood.
Looking suitably terrified is our next guest who's waiting.
Come on, that was great.
Simon Martin.
Who's saying that? Pop quiz. Who's saying that?
We'll be meeting Simon Martin in just a moment's time, and I smile actually, but you know what? Simon's here to be very brave and talk about a very serious subject, so we're very grateful to him. So thank you, Simon. We'll speak to you in just a moment's time. 1:30 is when we'll be catching up with What's on the Box over the weekend with Chantel Rickards. This is the Daily Show here on Men's Radio with him, Russ Kane, and me, Phil Dave. If you are still tuned in, well done. And now I can say that. And now it's time to work on our next guest too. I'm really you know, Russ, I think that I speak for both of us when I say that we never take for granted when people are going to be brave enough to talk about a subject that is actually quite delicate. And the fact that Simon Martin has, well, agreed to come on and talk about the subject of PTSD and also depression is, I think, is incredible. So let's welcome him to Men's Radio now. Simon, thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome. Hoping we can hear you, because there you go. Yes, we can hear you. That's wonderful. Now, Simon, I'm going to be a real pedant. Okay, you'll be delighted to hear this. Is it possible you could turn your device 90 degrees so we can see you in a landscape mode? Is that okay?
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, look at that.
Oh, perfect. Oh, that's great. That's so much better, Simon. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'll try not to make you seasick if I'm moving.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Look, this is 21st century living. We know how it is now. Look, first and foremost, thank you so much for speaking to me. Why not, if you... Look, I've got your biography written here in front of us, okay? And I always think it's a real nerve when anyone who works on radio tries to do the job of the contributor. No one can tell us your story better than you can. So would you be so kind as to sort of maybe start from the beginning and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm 50 years old, 51 next week, a week today, actually.
Returns for then.
I joined the Royal Marines. Yeah, thank you very much. So I joined the Royal Marines in 1988. Served 9 years, and then I joined the police, Hampshire Police, and then I was 21. And I retired, medically retired, in July 2017. The medical retirement was due to very severe PTSD.
Now, can I ask a really silly question? I hope this isn't too ignorant, but actually, I'm happy to wear my ignorance on my sleeve because I don't know much about it. But how did you know you had post-traumatic stress disorder?
That's a really good question, actually. I probably knew something was wrong around 2010. I wasn't exactly sure what, to be honest. I went to see my doctor and just said, look, I feel rubbish, I'm not sleeping, I'm having flashbacks or nightmares, whatever you want to call them. There's different scenarios I've dealt with. She put me on some antidepressants and they made me feel so bad because fitness is a massive part of my life. And I didn't want to train, I didn't want to eat, and they absolutely wiped me out. So I came off them and never went back to the doctor. That was it. I just felt. And that is not a blueprint of how to deal with this, by the way, but that's how I dealt with it at the time. And then it kind of got, I think it's kind of insidious. It creeps up on you. And obviously every day at work, what you're seeing is adding to what you've already seen. And we're talking hundreds and hundreds of bodies in various forms over the years. You know, I've seen every type of death you can imagine. And the trouble is, I think I had a real hard man image, which is probably why my fall was so hard. And I was a hard guy. I was a tough guy. With my background, my upbringing was not great. So like emotion was not a thing. And I think that the fact that I think a more balanced person probably would have addressed the issues quicker with more honesty than I did. Yeah, so I think it's a very slow, insidious creep into illness. And my brother took his own life in 2014. And that was probably where I started to unravel, I think, from then. Like,
do you think that was the trigger moment, was it?
It's difficult to say whether that was, I think there was a combination of things. I think my brother's death was very impactful for me, and the manner of it. And it was unexpected, although I knew he suffered with depression and issues like that. He's a former Marine as well. Then my son was born. My only child was born 2 months after my brother killed himself. And that, sorry.
Please take your time, Simon. Take your time. Reading your, just while you compose yourself, reading your notes, which Phil and I have, you're the diametric opposite to both Phil and myself, is that everything you've done has been incredibly brave and very physical. And you've put yourself, you know, you are the thin blue line, because not only you were in the Marines, the toughest of the tough, you're in the police, you're in the tactical firearms unit. So it gives the lie that, you know, being physically tough and obviously brave as you are is going to protect you from depression and issues with mental health.
Yeah, it's very difficult because there is still a culture, a macho culture, obviously, in those organisations.
Yes.
And it was one I embraced. You know, I'll be honest, it massaged my ego. My reputation was that of a hard man, somebody that could deal with any situation, somebody they wanted there if it was going pear-shaped. And I did embrace that, you know, and it became my identity. And unfortunately, obviously, your ego then becomes wrapped up in that, which didn't allow me to show anything or deal with anything until it was too late. So, yeah, you know, I sort of, but you know, underneath, obviously, what I was showing to the world was not what was going on within me at that time. And yeah, just going back to the birth of my son, I think I was pretty emotionless throughout my life until the point he was born. And then he brought out in me like proper emotions that a normal person would have, I would say. I say normal in brackets, but you know. And I think the combination of the two, my brother's death, and then this flood of emotion that I wasn't used to having or showing, I didn't know what to do with myself, if I'm perfectly honest.
Simon, Simon,
well.
could you? I'm so sorry, and please don't think I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
Is there any way you could speak a little closer to the microphone, because everybody wants to catch every word, and you know what you're saying is so important, and we don't want to miss it.
Yeah. Hopefully that's a bit better.
Well, I suspect maybe. Well, I suspect that maybe the microphone could be built into your headphones. So in which case you probably are not sure whether or not there is actually much you could do about that, to be honest.
Okay.
So the only alternative may be to disconnect the headphones, which we might ask you to try in a moment if this does carry on, but we'll see.
Okay.
When I say if this carries on, we obviously want to carry on talking to you. I mean, if the sound quality carries on like this. So sorry. Don't forgive me. Sounded terrible. Sorry. All right. So you were talking about sort of the emotions that you experienced after your son was born.
Yes. Yeah, and that was such a, obviously it's wonderful. You know, it's the complete opposite of losing your brother 2 months before. But I think the combination of those two things really were, and bear in mind, one of those is a really good thing. I think the combination of the both was too much for me to deal with, and led to me the acceleration of me getting ill, I think.
Simon, do you think? Do you think that to do the very brave things that you do, like joining Marines and then going in the police, did you think in order to function, did you have to cut off whole parts of your emotions in order to do that? Because I'm assuming you saw a combat and action wherever you went. Phil and I would be absolutely useless. As I said, you're the antithesis to this. Were you consciously having to sort of block those emotions?
Personally not, because my upbringing probably prepared me for that. But potentially, like somebody who came from a good upbringing, emotion was dealt with, and you know, love was shown, and everything else. May have to do that. May have to put on a bit of an act to deal with some of these things. But I naturally wasn't emotional anyway, so I was kind of well prepared for it, I guess. Although long term, perhaps not. But I think you just reach saturation point.
So was it when, and neither Phil nor I are doctors or psychologists or counselors, so bear with us if I don't put it in the best terminology. So your baby boy, your son is born. Was that suddenly like the dam breaking? Suddenly you had all these feelings for your little baby, and that just cascaded into everything else? Was that how it worked?
I think it probably was. I think I just started to feel for the first time in my life, in my adult life.
Wow.
Well, in my life at all, but certainly in my adult life. Because I was very shut up emotionally until he was born. And it sounds like I'm blaming my son. I'm really not, but because he is absolutely wonderful, and I have a lot of time with him. I think that was the opening. It's a really good description. The opening of the floodgates. Because there had been a big dam there for a long time that had blocked anything.
But you see, Simon, sorry,
I wasn't equipped to deal with it. You know, I wasn't mentally or physically, or mentally or emotionally equipped to deal with that at the time. I don't think.
Because we can't imagine what you've done and seen in the service of this country. And by the way, people are saying thank you for your service. Some our listeners are saying that to you. So please don't think it's not been acknowledged. But if Phil, I'll just use us as an example, right? If Phil and I were suddenly drafted into the Marines or something, we'd be impossible because we'd overthink everything. We'd be too emotional about it. I mean, you have to have a certain detachment, which was already there in you because of what happened to you when you were growing up. We'd be useless, but they wouldn't want us, but they would want people like you because you can function like that. And I would imagine that suddenly you felt this great love for the first time for this little baby that arrived wonderfully, especially following on the very sad death of your brother. And I guess it would be hard anyway. You're suddenly feeling a whole new emotion you hadn't experienced before. I'm second guessing that's what it was like. And that's such a powerful emotion. To have children anyway is hugely powerful and very emotional.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. He allowed me to reinvent myself because I really was, and it's not as contrived as that sounds. I really was that closed off hard man, you know, and I didn't want to be that way. I did not want to be that way.
You closed off hard man. Did you recognize that, or was it only afterwards that you knew, or did you know that's what you were? Do you see what I mean? Or was it only after your son was realized you're looking in the mirror?
No, I knew. Yeah, I knew how I was. I knew how I came across. And actually, I didn't want to be that way, but I had become, like I say, it became my identity. I was known for it. You know, wherever I went, my reputation was that. And when you come from the Marines into police, there's a certain expectation from your colleagues that you bring a certain mindset and you bring a certain skill set. So when it's going off, when there's a massive fight or there's whatever it is, they look to you. And I lived up to that. I lived up to that expectation. And then obviously you then get that reputation for that, and then it becomes your identity, and then your ego is wrapped up in that as well. So yeah, I mean, I really did live that life. I was that guy. You know, there was a door to go through when nobody knew it was on the other side. It was me going through first.
Can I ask you a question, Simon? Can I ask you a question about that? Because I've never been able to do that. I put my hand up. I would be terrified. And you've just given an extraordinary example. It's very, very visual. There's a door. There could be somebody there with a suicide vest. There could be somebody there with a Kalashnikov, or, you know, whatever. You don't know. And you are the first guy through that door. And I'd be standing there with Phil going, no, after you, please, no, after you. Yeah. Where did you develop that? Where did you, what can I say, that extraordinary bravery? Where did you get that daring do that I'm going to get through this? I'm going through the door first, but the guy on the other side's going to cop it, not me. How did a person develop that?
I've sort of talked about this in the past, and what I developed for me and what works for me, obviously before I'm going into a dangerous situation, I have the same fear as everybody else. The way I deal with that, I acknowledge it, but then I have what I call the ethics button. I'm sure you know what F stands for.
Yeah, it's okay.
So I have an internal mental ethic button. And I literally just say to myself, F it, and off I go. It resets me, and I become completely calm, the fear goes, and off I go and do my thing. And how I visualise that. Can you remember the film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Very clearly, yes.
Can you remember the final scene?
Of course I do, yes.
But perhaps for those who don't, just to remind them.
Yeah, that's the exit button. So that's when they're surrounded by the Mexicans, I think.
Yeah.
There is no way out. So they look at each other and they're held up in a small building. And they look at each other. They haven't got much ammunition left. They've got a pistol in each hand. And they run out to certain death. But they run out firing. And they sort of go left and right as they come out of this doorway. And it ends there. You don't see them get killed. But you know that's what's going to happen. But the moment before they go through that door, trust me, they're pressing the exit button. And that's what's got me through all these situations.
So can we talk about the time when you had to sort of confront all of this? Because that's obviously when you were in the moment. But a massive part of this has been tackling it head on, possibly even reliving a lot of those moments that you may have even parked somewhere at the back of the mine and didn't even realize still lived there. And yet it must have come back to, I think haunt is the right word, because that isn't that technically what PTSD is. And how did you go about dealing with it? Because you mentioned something about the doctors putting you on antidepressants, which you came off, which obviously I should say to anyone, please follow doctor's advice just because, but even so.
Absolutely, yeah. And I would always say that. That was just my experience. But I would always say, obviously, listen to the medical advice you're given. I guess the simple answer is I didn't deal with it. Because I became increasingly worse to the point in late 2016. I was acutely suicidal and I did not want to see 2017. I decided that was my last Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah. So I hadn't dealt with it. And in early 2017, I was prepared to kill myself in my garage. And I was walking out the back door to do it. My garage was at the far end of my garden at the time. And when my little boy had been at nursery, probably about a year before, they'd made a calendar with him. And when I got it back then, a year before this, I'd hung it on the window by the back door. So I had to walk past it when I went out. And on this calendar was a picture of him. And they must have taken it with a Polaroid or something, because there's a really bad picture of him, actually. But as I walked out, I looked at that and it stopped me in my tracks. So, but I was probably about 5 minutes away from killing myself.
Wow.
If I'm honest. And I wouldn't have made a mistake. You know, that was it.
No, you're a professional and a firearms officer and everything else. You wouldn't have, but thank goodness. And I'm sure everybody listening all over the world now is going, thank God for that calendar.
So would you say that was the beginning of the road back again? Or can I be blunt? Have you still not dealt with everything?
Well, as I speak now, I would say, and I'm very careful how I use this word, I was unhealed. And I say that word very advisedly, because you always have to be very self-aware. But from after that incident where I nearly killed myself, my doctor changed my medication, which made me even worse. Made me so horrendously suicidal. I didn't sleep for 3 nights at all. I was just pacing up and down.
Ooh.
And I remember saying to my wife at the time that my brain is trying to kill me. Because that's what it felt like. It felt like my brain wanted me dead. And unless you've been there, that won't make any sense. But when you're, obviously I've had people try and kill me quite on a number of occasions, unsuccessfully, obviously. But when you're a danger to yourself, that is a far scarier scenario than somebody trying to kill you. When you're not safe in your own company, I can't even describe the terror of that. It doesn't even compare to somebody trying to kill you as a form of terror.
But are you aware of it? As in, like, when you say that the terror of it, because the impression I've got from speaking to people who are brave enough like yourself to come on this show and talk to us about it, the impression that I get is that you're not aware of what your mind is thinking. You don't realize where you're at. You know what the horrible goal is that you have in mind, but you're not aware that it's not, how can I put it without sounding patronizing? It's not a good thing to do, if you see what I mean. So were you aware of what you were thinking and feeling?
I was. Yeah, I think I'm a very self-aware person, certainly more so now than ever. Because you have to be, because you have to monitor yourself all the time. But I was self-aware then. I knew what was going on. But I've encountered people with mental health issues, obviously, in my career many, many times. And I would definitely say some of those people are not self-aware. They do not know what's really happening. And they are irrational in their thinking. I wasn't irrational in my thinking. I was self-aware. And that makes the whole thing so much scarier, I can honestly tell you that. Because the drive to take my own life was so strong.
Can I ask you this?
It's a very scary place to be. Very lonely place to be.
It's a terrifying place to be, Simon. And again, I want to echo what Phil Dave has just said. Thank you so much for coming on. You're not going yet, but I want to say thank you. You're being very, very brave. And your words will be resonating, I can assure you, with so many people. Because as we always say on Men's Radio, everyone's got a story. Everybody's got a story. When you were considering ending it all and you were heading down to your garage, was it, and this is what we've asked a lot of our guests who've been brave like you to come on and talk about this very, very sensitive subject, was it that you just wanted the pain to go away and for it to end?
I don't know, really. I think when you're that ill, and I was very dangerously ill at that point, you can't see an end to it. There is, I said on the video I did a while ago that, everybody says there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Well, that doesn't help if you can't even see the tunnel, and I couldn't at that point. It felt like how I was feeling was a life sentence, which then gave me the option to choose a death sentence to end it. Because I could not imagine not feeling the way I felt at that time, which, looking back, seems slightly ridiculous to me now, because obviously I don't feel that way now. But when you're that deep in it,
it doesn't seem ridiculous at all, Simon. It honestly doesn't. But looking back, could I ask you this? When you see your son, who you've obviously got a very close relationship with, do you then think to yourself, well, thank heavens I didn't do that, because think of the effect on my little boy? Does that sort of resonate with you?
Yeah, and probably something I've only recently addressed. And I did a video, and it's on LinkedIn and Instagram and various other places. But I hadn't addressed. I'd spoken about my illness and my struggle with it probably about for the last 18 months, which has been quite cathartic for me, and I know it has helped other people. But I'd avoided, and obviously my friends see me with my son, and I've got such a close relationship with my son. It's an incredible, beautiful relationship. I had never addressed the dichotomy between being acutely suicidal whilst having this immense love and this amazing relationship with my son. I rather cowardly had avoided that aspect of when I had spoken about the illness. I'd avoided that until recently. It's a really hard one to comprehend, I think, for the average person who I hope hasn't felt that way. But you definitely get to a point where you are so disgusted with yourself, your self-image. Towards the end of that illness, when I was very close to killing myself, any thought I had of me being a good person, me being a tough person, somebody that could deal with anything, but everything was stripped away. My entire persona, my ego, everything had been stripped away. I was a shell. There was nothing left of me. And well, so obviously I loved my son. I felt, and this is how deep you get. You feel that people are better off without you. The people you love are better off without you. And to anybody listening, if they ever hear somebody say that, that's a real warning sign. That is a real red flag.
Simon,
has your son ever? How old is your son now? Sorry if you don't mind me asking.
He's 6. He was 6 in March.
Okay. Just know, for heaven's sakes, it will not be better off without you. Ever, no matter how bad it gets.
Yeah.
It'll never be better off without you.
And I 100% know that now, and he's such a beautiful human being. I'm not sure where he gets it from, but he is so...
He probably gets it from you, Simon. I'm suggesting he gets it from you, Mr. Tough Guy. I'll tell you something, Simon. He's
such a beautiful guy, honestly. He's amazing. And I want to see him grow up, because he's going to be...
There you go.
He's a natural leader. He's naturally charismatic, not in a precocious way at all. And he's just full of love. I mean, he's incredible.
Wonder where he gets that from, Simon, Mr. First Through the Door. Can't imagine. I'm going first through the door. My son's a natural leader, and I'm puzzled. How does that work out? Simon, I've got to tell you something. I'm going to jump in on where Phil, I know Phil would pick up on this point as well. When we have had the, I'm going to say honor, privilege of talking to people like yourself who have been there to share their story, which helps so many people. One thing in common that everyone who contemplated taking their lives have said, I thought everyone would be better off without me. And Phil and I have always said, do you understand how much they'd miss you? And that pain would never go away. And you're in an even more sensitive situation, if I could say, because your brother, very sadly, took his own life. And so part of you must be thinking, well, that's a tragedy. I'll leave it as that. I'll just put a cover over it and just say that's a tragedy. You wouldn't want to inflict that pain on anybody else.
No, and I really struggled with my brother's death. Our own father died really young. I was 15 months old. My brother was 3.5.
Oh, God.
And my father died of natural causes. He had a burst appendix, which went into septicemia, and then cerebral meningitis, which back in 1970s was pretty much a death sentence. It'd probably be okay now, but not back then. I never knew my father, so it didn't massively affect me, I don't think. But my brother did have memories of my father. And in his suicide note, he said that he never got over the death of our father. That was one of the things he wrote. But he left his own son behind. He had a 9-year-old son at the time of his death. And when I heard about my brother's death by text, which is not the best way, trust me, in a meeting, I went straight to anger. You know, the different stages of grief, like denial, and then I went straight to anger, and I stayed there for a long time because it made no sense to me, and I knew I was in trouble, like personally in trouble, when it made sense to me. Because I think you have to be so ill for that to make sense.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, that's when I really knew. I was like, well, I'm in a really bad place here, because I understand why he did what he did. Because for a very long time I didn't. But a friend of mine did help me with the anger side of it, because they said, Simon, you're trying to rationalise the thoughts of a man who did what he, at the time he did what he did, was irrational. So you're never going to get any kind of answer that's going to satisfy you. It's just going to haunt you. I think that's really good advice. You know,
That's incredible advice. I don't know who your friend is, but that's incredible advice.
And it really helped me. It just brought the anger down, because I knew that I'm either going to be angry for life because I'm never going to get the answer. So, yeah, that was really good advice. And I think for anybody that struggles with having had a relative or a close friend do that, then that is not a bad way to look at it, you know, because, you know, when you're that deep in despair, you aren't thinking completely rationally, for sure. So, and if they feel that they actually sometimes, like I said before, you feel like you're doing those loved ones a benefit by leaving this world, and obviously you're not, but that's how ill you are at the time. So that was really good advice I got. So I really did struggle with my brother's death from an anger point of view initially, which I feel quite guilty about now, but it's just that natural emotion.
Why do you feel?
Dundee.
Why do you feel guilty? Because I totally relate to that, by the way, completely. I'm still angry. So why do you feel guilty about
that? Because I should have been kinder in my thoughts towards him for doing what he did. And I wasn't initially. And I remember he lived in Dundee, and my son's mother was 7 months pregnant. I had to keep flying up to Dundee to sort stuff out. And I went to the police station in Dundee to pick up the suicide note, and I read it. Dundee is not a great place. Sorry for any listeners that live there. But I remember I was walking back towards my hotel, and there was
they feel. So,
sorry.
I suspect you're probably saying how they feel. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I was walking back towards the hotel, and it was January, so it was raining, it was cold, it was barely light really. And I stood in it. I stopped. This note was in my pocket, and I didn't want to read it. I hadn't opened it, and I was walking back, and it was burning a hole in my chest. You know, so I stopped in this doorway, and there were needles there. It stunk of urine. The rain is absolutely torrential, and I'm stood in this disgusting doorway, reading this note. And that's one of the first sentences I read, obviously, and I just went straight to anger. Yeah, and I think I just should have been kinder. I understand why I felt angry, you know, but yeah, I think going through it myself later gave me an empathy that I didn't have at that time. So when I look back feeling quite guilty, but at that time I didn't have that level of empathy that I do now because of having gone through it myself. So I've evolved, I think, in that by going through what I went through.
Yes.
But at that time, yeah, I didn't have any empathy towards him, just anger. Which I feel guilty for that, because he was a good guy and he was just very, very ill, and he didn't deserve my anger.
Yeah, but you're
help sometimes.
Yeah, but second, but the way I look at it, Simon, is that your anger, even if it was aimed at him in inverted commas, it was a natural reaction for you to feel. It wasn't because you were angry at how he felt. You were more angry about what he did off the back of how he felt. You see what I mean? So I don't look at it as anger towards him. I look at anger as towards the horrible way that he was feeling drove him to do.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it as an outsider. Maybe ignorantly.
The other thing is, Simon,
I think I just understood a lot more having gone through it myself. And I think it's really difficult for anybody that hasn't been through it to really grasp what it's like. You know, and when somebody doesn't understand, I'm actually quite grateful, because it means they haven't been there. But it's a very hard concept to get your head around unless you've been to those depths, and to have empathy for it if you haven't. into those depths. I think, like to fully understand is very, very difficult.
It is very hard. But you know, you were beating yourself up, understandably, but anger is widely acknowledged, totally acknowledged as part of the grieving process. It is one of the stages you go through. It's inevitable that it's going to hit you, etc. So you know, you're only doing what millions and millions of other people have done and felt. It's no reflection on you. It's how we are made up as people, and life is horribly complicated and horribly hard, and that's what it is. What do you do now? Because you've done these you know, very, I'm going to say, macho, scary jobs. You know, you're a Marine, you're a firearms officer in the police. Please tell me you're doing something relatively safe now.
Yeah, I do.
It does something.
I do personal training, strength and conditioning.
Oh.
So yeah, that's what I do.
Is that self-defense? I mean, like self-defense, Simon, that sort of thing, or just sort of like keep fit? What sort of training is it?
I mainly specialise in strength. I'm a strength athlete myself, so I do strength. But conditioning, I'm training for people at the moment to join the forces. And that's kind of becoming my niche, actually. People are coming to me to prepare to join the forces now, so that's organically that is becoming a niche.
Fantastic.
For me. I'm a very privileged position in the fact that I can choose who I work with, and I don't choose that many. So I've got a really good pension, and I tend to only do 2 clients a day in between school hours. So I'm in a very privileged position and I tend to interview people because I'm very protective of my time, and I'm very protective of myself these days. So I interview them for an hour. Yeah, so I'll take them for coffee. I mean, that's my interview. It's not as formal as it sounds. I'll take them for coffee, like when they've expressed an interest to work with me, and I'll spend some time with them. And if they're positive, motivated, don't make excuses, and I enjoy their company, I'll work with them. If they're not, then I won't.
Are these, Simon, are these young men and women who want to join the armed forces, and you're getting them ready so they're both physically and mentally fit, or how would this work? What do they want to get out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I've got 3 now who want to join the Marines, who want to join the Army. Obviously, I'm just trying to persuade the one that wants to join the Army to join the Marines as well. So yeah, they come to me to prepare physically, but actually I spend more time preparing them mentally than I do physically. Because there's a lot I've seen in my time in the Marines. I saw a lot of people that were very, very physically capable fail if they weren't mentally equipped to deal with the huge stresses they put you under. Because certainly the early part of training, the training team's role is to get rid of you. They don't want you there because they only want the best left. So they only want the cream of the crop left when they get to a certain stage. So you have to be able to deal with everything they throw at you, and that's far more mental than it is physical. So I tend to spend more time preparing people mentally, and you know, when there's a natural break, when I'm giving them a couple of minutes rest, I'll be talking about what the training team will likely try and do to get rid of them. So they're prepared, they recognise it. It's the secret to getting through Royal Marine training is being there at the end. You know, you don't have to be the best. Try not to be the worst, obviously. But you just have to be there at the end, and that's kind of it.
Slightly off topic. What is it that the people you're training, what is it they want from the Marines? What's driving them to join something which is incredibly physical and could be, you know, hugely dangerous? What motivates them? I'm fascinated.
Yeah, well, I had a new guy start yesterday with me, and I trained him for the first time. And I asked him that question, actually. This is fortuitous. And he said, I need a goal, a big goal, I need discipline in my life. Just potentially, generationally, that is missing. And I need a purpose. And I want to have a job I'm proud of. That was his answer. So that's probably reflects the vast majority of what they all want. They want structure, they want discipline, they want excitement. So you get to travel the world and do some really cool, away from the sort of combat scenarios, you get to do some really cool stuff, parachuting, diving, skiing, canoeing, climbing, mountaineering. You get to do some very, very cool stuff. So, and go to some amazing places and meet some great people. So, and work with great people. So,
and presumably there's a wonderful camaraderie, a brotherhood, a sisterhood that bonds you together. I'm assuming.
It's massive. It really is. And I always say it's the biggest boys' club in the world, which probably isn't particularly politically correct these days. But there's never been a female Royal Marine, so although they are allowed to join, they're not precluded. And I'm sure that will come, and I hope it does come, because I think all organisations benefit. But it is still a boys' club at the moment. So, and taking that, I found out about my brother's death, just to link in the two. When I found out about my brother's death, obviously he was Dundee. I live as far south as you can get before you jump in the sea. So I just put on Facebook, I need to get to Dundee. Can anybody offer me accommodation tonight? And my friend Jonah, who I hadn't seen for 24 years.
Wow.
I haven't physically seen him for 24 years. He lived in Edinburgh, and I was flying into Edinburgh. He lived in Edinburgh. He was a taxi driver. So I landed at Edinburgh about 11:30 at night. He picks me up in his black cab, takes me back to his lovely house. He feeds me. We have some few beers. I end up, his dog won't leave my side. His dog Buddy, he had and he's still alive, golden retriever. For whatever reason, he obviously knew I was upset or whatever, wouldn't leave my side. He sat in the bed with me in the spare room, the dog. And then in the morning, Jonah gave me breakfast, took me back to the airport to pick up my hire car for me to go on to Dundee.
Wow.
Sorry, you're broken there.
That's
So,
well,
yeah,
that's true friendship. That's true
that's
comradeship.
Yeah,
Simon, it's unbelievable to think that, but we're quite, would you believe it? I hate to say this, but we have actually still got other guests as well. We're trying to sort of shoehorn in. So it sounds so rude of me, but forgive me, but I'm just sort of aware of the time. Where are you at now? Where are you at now in terms of sort of how are you feeling now? And just, I think people want to know how you feel about yourself right here, right now.
I can honestly say I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my entire life at the moment, and have been for quite a while. I live in a wonderful place. It's the old Royal Marine Barracks, actually, which is all private now, down in Southsea. So I'm 2 minutes from the beach.
Wow.
Although I'm separated, obviously I'm not with my son's mother anymore, but I have him 50% of the time. So I have a lot of time with my son, and life's really good. I love what I do. I'm very careful who I train, and the people I train I absolutely adore, and they become close friends. So I'm in a very, very privileged and lucky, and I'm very grateful for the position I'm in now.
Wow. Well, I think
like 3 to 4 years ago, I couldn't have even envisaged being where I am now. Emotionally, physically.
Wonderful testimony to
the world is privileged for having you in it. So thank you so much for, just thank you for not doing what would have been a dreadful mistake. But more importantly, thank you for telling others about it, because don't underestimate whether they're watching live or whether they're watching again later, which a lot of people do watch again later, how much your story will help. So thank you for telling everyone about it.
Simon, we wish you all the best. Oh, it's our pleasure. Absolutely our pleasure. Simon, take care.
Keep well.
Be well. Be well.
Thank you
And
very
we
much.
say all the best. Bye-bye, Simon. Goodbye.
Do you ever meet people, Phil, Dave, and you just think, Christ, what an impressive guy. And you think, what the hell have I ever done?
Every single week on this program, I do.
Every week. Every bloody week. I'm sitting there and I'm watching your face. You're watching my face, and I'm thinking,
Nothing like being on this program to make me feel so pointless in life. Seriously, I haven't achieved anything by comparison to some. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, look, obviously we wish Simon well. What can I say?
It's amazing when, you know, there's brave and there's brave. I have to say, you know, you do cool things, and everything he listed would be my idea of terror. Climbing, mountaineering, parachuting, whatever he mentioned, I thought, I can't do this.
Oh, no,
I'd be absolutely crapping myself. He's climbing. I can't even change a light bulb.
Every single time he was checklisting sort of the daredevil parts of his life, I was just thinking, not my style.
I couldn't do it. You think, but you know, if it wasn't for guys like that, we'd all be speaking German. So that's all there is to it.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
Well, it is how I look at it, because if it wasn't for people who can do what Simon does and did, you know, we you know where I'm going with that. You know what I'm saying. These guys are amazing, because I don't see it as brave. I spent a lot of time with a lot of military guys because of the work that I was doing with Army Benevolent Fund Soldiers Charity, and they just see it as a job and they love it, and they don't. And I always say, do you realize how brave you are? And they go, oh, not really. Not really. You think, and then you see camera, you know, helmet footage of which they show us, which does not get on the news, and you see what it's like in action. You think, Christ, whoa, God damn.
You know what?
And nobody's panicking.
Meanwhile, back at home, someone is whinging because their local shops run out of milk.
No. You know what I was thinking? I'll tell you what I was thinking. Here's this guy who has served his country. God only knows what he's done, not only just as a Marine, but as a policeman, and not just a policeman, a firearms officer. So he's not going to talk to you for parking on a single yellow line, right? And there's people bitching and moaning that they've got to wear a piece of fabric over their face. Get over it.
Yeah.
Get over it, for Christ's sake. You know, stop moaning about it. Think about the white. It's pathetic, isn't it? If you think about it like that, Phil, it's pathetic. Here's a guy. He's going first through the door. He doesn't know what the hell's on the other side, and he's going to do it. He's going to do it.
What I think of frankly lunatics, and I don't know if we're even allowed to call them that anymore. Lunatics who refuse to wear face coverings in mandatory places. It's just unbelievable. Selfish is just not even a word. But that could all be, I suppose, linked to our attitudes towards COVID-19. And our next guest is going to talk about that very subject. We'll meet Anna in just a moment's time. But just a reminder that you are listening to The Daily Show with Russ, Kane and Phil Dave. We're with you until 2 o'clock live this afternoon. So please keep your comments coming, because we really, really love this show when you join in and do comment along. Chantal Rickards will be here at 1:30 with a preview of maybe some things that we can all unwind to by watching on the box over the weekend. And no,
I got to ask you a question right now.
Oh yes, because
people don't get this. Because sometimes we're very flip, because that's how we are as people, right? And sometimes we're not. How are you feeling right now, Phil, after that interview? Be honest.
I feel like I could cry.
There you go.
I'm honest. And I won't, because that's not my style. But it gets right. I've got fireworks of emotions going through right now.
I know. I feel very emotional. It gets right inside you, and I think, you know, we're kind of like a family here on Men's Radio. The way everybody joins in, people have got to know each other, people have met, all sorts of stuff. And one of the things is, if don't think for a second, because Phil and I are doing what we do for a living, which we've always done, doesn't mean that we're not feeling the same as you, but it doesn't help the process if we just sit there like sobbing wrecks. And man, when he was talking about that, I was thinking, I couldn't help it. I know we've got our next guest, but I couldn't help thinking of Johnny Benjamin.
Yeah.
And when Johnny Benjamin was in the studio, he said exactly the same thing.
The only thing is, though, of course, is the difference. And I can say, and by the way, I think you read the notes from Johnny during the week. I can't remember what day it was. Johnny is not very well at the moment. So, I mean, obviously, please, JB, can you come back to us and make it quick? But his, the note that he put sort of at the beginning of the week just reminded me. I just thought, if life is a bit fragile. But what I was going to say, that by Johnny's own admission, I'm quite sure, is that unlike Simon, he probably wouldn't be first through the door.
There'd be, please, Phil, after you. You'd be going age before beauty, and I'd be going pearls before swine. No, Phil, it's your turn. No, you went through the door. I mean, the pair of us would be standing there moaning at each other. And the guy at the other side would actually die of boredom. He wouldn't even die of a bullet. He'd just die of boredom while we were moaning and groaning and arguing who's going to go through the door first.
Just to sort of really quickly summarize sort of the emotions that I feel after that, frankly, is I feel immensely sad, because I just think how horrible that anyone has to live with that day in, day out, and never get a break and never escape, when all they've ever done is try to help other people. That's all he's ever done his whole life long. His career has been dedicated to the lives of others and helping others. And this is the thanks he gets, is his own life becomes questioned by him all the time.
Why you thought of that? Ooh, wow. That's powerful stuff. That's powerful stuff.
And I feel so helpless, because I sit here almost struck dumb, not being able to say the right things, because what do you say? Nothing you can say is the right thing. You can just
well, no, because you don't want to have a platitude, but you try and ask some questions, and all we're trying to do, our whole ethos, you, me, everybody, is remove the stigma surrounding mental health, allowing the conversation, letting people try and have a clearer understanding. Because I don't know about you, but since we started this, my understanding has rocketed. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a psychotherapist, but our understanding, when you're just talking as one human to another, is so broadened by what it was. Because it's so easy, if you're going to write like a tabloid and just say, he's a soldier, he's got PSD, it's so simple, because you've got to get some stupid little shitty soundbite, like most radio stations, and get it all over in 3 minutes. Well, there we go. We were talking to so and so, a former Marine, and then they'd spin it. All we're trying to do is allow people to tell their story in their own time, in their own words, and communicate what it's like. And one of the most frightening things is when you stare into the abyss. And when you stare into that abyss, which I do not recommend to anybody, it is truly terrifying, because you don't think you're ever going to come out. And
now, speaking of the abyss, Russ, is that one thing I feel that a lot of us probably feel at the moment is that we are staring into a bit of an abyss in terms of not knowing where we're going with COVID-19, how we're truly feeling about it. However, our next guest, I'm delighted to say, most definitely has, I think, from what I've read and understood, a better understanding than most of us in terms of attitudes towards COVID-19. This is less so about the medical advice behind it. This is more about our attitudes towards it. Anna Hood is a research fellow at the Great Ormond Street Child Health Institute at University College London. And I'm so delighted to say that Anna joins us now. Anna, good afternoon. And thank you so much for speaking to us on Men's Radio this afternoon. It really is much appreciated. Look, first and foremost, shall we start off with the big question? What is wrong with people's attitudes towards start?
There's a lot to start with. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate joining you today. I think, some of the things, so I study attitudes about COVID-19 and health, is really trying to gather the information about what people are thinking about COVID-19 and how are they able to manage and navigate, I think, the social distancing measures, you know, the current restrictions, and then how that's affecting mental health. And I think some of the things that we're really trying to do is think about, you know, some of the individuals who just don't, you know, maybe want to be able to follow the guidelines and are struggling with it, are having such changes to their lives that they're causing and changing their mental health. And so we're really trying to think about those issues. But I think, you know, it runs the spectrum of people's attitudes, as you know, and as we see daily.
I'm really sorry to plonk such a huge question in front of you right at the start of this. But are people who don't follow the rules that are very, I think, very clearly laid out? People might choose to say they're complicated, but they are there. And if you don't understand them, they're available online in bullet points. So people can say they don't understand them, but frankly, that's a poor excuse. Are people who don't follow them genuinely ignorant, or are they selfish? Or are they neither?
I would say that I wouldn't put everybody into one of those buckets. I think there are some people who don't follow the guidelines for those reasons, who choose not to for whatever belief system they might have. But there are other individuals who, in terms of especially around social distancing, that it can be more challenging. And some of the things we're trying to think about is that if we can get a better handle on understanding why individuals might not follow guidelines and why they think guidelines might not be for them, or is it around their trust in government? Is it around their trust in people like me? And then can we hope, if we can listen to their voice, then think about ways that we can have them follow the guidelines so that we can move through this. Because that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, is that we're at a point where if we have, you know, more people following the guidelines, then, you know, we get out on the other end of this much more quickly. But people don't want to follow the guidelines because they feel it's restrictions to them. And so really thinking about that balance, not dismissing the voice, but really listening so that we can get to a place where we just get to some form of normality again.
See, Anna, yesterday I had to I had to go into town to Piccadilly, as it so happens, and driving is impossible. So I took buses and tubes. The vast majority are wearing masks. I mean, there's notices and signs everywhere. This is not a secret, and it's mandatory on public transport to wear masks, and people still weren't. And I just think, why are you doing this? Why?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I've had the same experience. I'm in London as well, and traveling into central London and wondering some of the same things. And, you know, some of it is around, you know, this individualistic idea that, you know, the government can't tell me what to do. Some of it is around, you know, some people genuinely, you know, are exempt from wearing masks. Some people don't feel that, you know, don't see that COVID is the risk that, you know, that others do. The level of what people consider this as a risk, it differs among individuals. And so, you know, getting the better handle on that is what, you know, the Attached study and, you know, our group is really trying to do, is to better understand exactly what you're asking, Russ. What are the reasons that people aren't doing it? And then are there ways that we can help guide them to think that, you know, it's really hard for humans generally to think about the long term. Like, we really think about the short term and what are our short term gains and losses. And it's really hard to overcome that. It's, you know, the classic examples, right, are losing weight, right? It's really difficult sometimes to think about what we're going to do in the future. And this appears to be an example of that to me. It's really difficult to think of, you know, if we have some really tight restrictions, some, you know, that are tough for those first few months, as then, you know, the long-term gain is that we get back to normal. But that's difficult.
What I find absolutely staggering about all of this is that, and I know people who do use the excuse, well, they're so anti-government. What does this government know? Why should I follow what they tell me? And in particular, a lot of people refer back to the time when they saw Dominic Cummings making a bit of a fool of himself and not necessarily following the rules that were being set out by the government. And that's when they say a lot of this started unraveling. But what I find unbelievable is that the people who are saying it's because the government don't know how to behave, if that is genuinely their excuse, then they're even more stupid than I give them credit for. It's not the government coming up with this. This is professionals like you, people in the medical industry who are advising the government along these lines. So it's the medics we're ignoring. It's not the government. But if people don't follow the rules, they are actually going against proper medical advice. And that's what I find so scary, that these fools who think that they know better than medics, that's what worries me.
I mean, it's a challenge to be able to get to everybody. And as I said, I think there are genuinely some people who, who really just don't agree with, whatever advice is being given at a given moment. But there are other individuals who are struggling to be able to manage that. And I think those, in terms of thinking about those individuals, I think that's important as well. In terms of what, be it your living arrangement, be it the fact that you have to go out to work. But one thing I think has been the biggest challenge, and I think this is, because at the beginning of the pandemic, it was so, we just didn't know, this was new knowledge coming in, has been the change in the advice around wearing masks. And I think sometimes I think it's both these individuals, but I also think it's a lack of knowledge about how science gains knowledge. We gain knowledge incrementally, and then once we have a convergence of knowledge, right, we take all of that information that we have and we put it together. And because COVID-19 was so rapidly developing, that we, lots of different bits of knowledge were coming in at once. And so people will point to, early in the pandemic and saying, well, we didn't tell us to wear masks then, why are we being asked to wear masks now? And so that, I would say, is that, now we have this convergence of information, of science and of knowledge, that we know that this is actually, really the best prophylactic that we could use in this pandemic right now, and would be the quickest way for us to get to the other side.
Hannah, let me ask you this, because I feel really stymied on something. When I was on the public transport, which I've used twice, with some trepidation, I have to say, but I wore gloves and a mask, and I do what I can. And when you see people who are just blatantly flouting the rules, not because of I posted about it yesterday, because they've got an exemption like asthma or whatever it might be, because they just don't give a damn. One part of you wants to go up and say, would you mind please putting a mask on? The other part of you doesn't want to get a fist in your face. Is there anything that one should do? Is there anything one can do?
I mean, it's difficult in those moments. I think if you are going to say something, it would be with the caveat of saying, I understand there are individuals who, are exempt, but maybe giving an explanation as to why to wear a mask if you feel comfortable, if suggesting that sort of collective that we need to. But one of the things we know from psychological research is that it's very difficult to get somebody to change their mind by berating them. So if you go up to somebody and tell them that, that their view on, eating apples, for example, is completely wrong, and tell them why, and there might be factual reasons, oftentimes those individuals will become more entrenched into that particular, idea. It's one of the things that we know. And so it's really thinking about how you navigate that. Facts aren't always the best way. Appeals and understanding often can be a way to navigate that. But it is tricky.
And also, of course, and this sounds daft, but it's true, I didn't want to go near them.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm doing my best to avoid them. So I'm like up the other end of the carriage. I'm thinking, well, screw this. I'm not going to walk up and say something, because one, it could all kick off, and two, I don't want to be within their sphere of activity, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
There is something, though, that I have been sort of banging on about for a long time, which possibly is counterintuitive and probably doesn't help the whole do as the government advises, or do better still, do as the medics advise. I've always questioned the level of response towards COVID-19 offset against the numbers. Now, this is not conspiracy. This is actually working with the numbers of cases around the world versus the number of people who have sadly lost their lives versus the number of people who have recovered. And we know from seeing the numbers around the world that about 85% of people do survive COVID-19. We also know that in terms of the total number of people that have the virus around the world, I think the headline earlier on today was 30 million people now around the world are confirmed to have had COVID-19. Now, I'm not a brilliant mathematician, but I happen to know that if there's 7.7 billion people in the world, well, 30 million is just shy of 0.4%. So why are we so in fear of a virus that's actually, in the grand scheme of things, affected very few people worldwide?
Well, I think there are a number of things I would say to that. One, I would say we're in the middle of this. In fact, it's hard to know whether we're still maybe somewhere near the beginning. So those numbers will continue to grow. And then because we've used social distancing measures and because we've wear face masks and washed hands, we have a considerable, fewer number of people who have been affected. The other thing that I am concerned about as a psychologist is, the long-term symptoms that we're seeing in individuals that are really affecting both mental health and cognitive outcomes and how people are being affected. And so you've got both of these challenges where we don't know where we'll end up with the final figures in terms of our numbers. Likely, I think the official numbers are an underrepresentation, given that some countries, in terms of how they're reporting, we don't know the full extent of the virus. But also, these individuals, young individuals as well, who are experiencing these long-term symptoms after having what would be considered mild COVID. They weren't hospitalized. And some who were hospitalized who are now seeing these long-term, lung and brain neurologic issues. So I think there's, the unknown is always what we fear, and we don't know where we're going with this yet.
Doing the opposite side of the coin from Phil, just for a second, and Phil's figures, I understand Phil figures. I'm not going to get into that now because it's something we've been debating since February, March. Are we, to the best of your knowledge, I don't want to put you on the spot, are we being told the truth in as much as, is there something about COVID-19 that we don't know that we should be absolutely terrified of, or something, which is why these measures have been put in place on a scale that no one could even envisage last December? Is there something about it that we're, that we don't know that we should? Not
to my knowledge. I think there are things that we know that I don't think people are taking into account. I mean, long COVID, the symptoms being one, and the other is if we had done nothing, what it would look like. It's really hard to say that, right? Because we don't know. We have done things, but every country had essentially tried to gain herd immunity, we don't know what it would look like. So not to my knowledge that there are any things that are being particularly hidden around it, but I think those unknowns of if we didn't put things into place are the real challenge.
So Phil, just hang on a sec. We're always, when we sort of talk about it, Anna, we always get thrown in our face, oh, but look at Sweden. Look at Sweden this, Sweden that. And so my argument is, one, there's about 3.5 people and some elk in Sweden. It's not the same as a huge metropolitan city like London or New York or wherever you want to do. Did they do again, in your professional opinion, did Sweden do the right thing? Or did they do the wrong thing? Or are the circumstances so different you can't go do a comparison?
I wouldn't want to say whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing. What I will say is that it's not that their numbers are, vastly lower though than their other Scandinavian counterparts. In fact, in some cases they're higher. And this is purely what I've read, not from research that I've done, is that many individuals in Sweden are actually following social distancing measures. So this isn't a pure example of completely no social distancing versus social distancing and our restrictions and seeing what's happened. Individuals, just because the government hadn't placed restrictions, it didn't mean that individuals didn't place restrictions. It's just as we're seeing here, right? People, the government's asking people to go out and go back to work and do things, but then many individuals are still, if they can, working from home. So despite the guidelines, people are taking their health into their own hands.
Yeah. Where I get terribly confused is this. We've now got the rule of 6. Well, we don't have... So, and I'm not being flippant about this, Anna, I'm being serious. You've got the rule of 6. Okay. Well, they don't say we can only have 6 people on a bus. They don't say you can only have 6 people in Tesco's. I can't follow as much as I want to, and I've been so strict with myself, I can assure you. I'm not some wild rebel. I had double pneumonia last year. I ain't taking any chances. But how can you get on a tube, as I have, and the bus, as I have, and in the shop, as I have, like everybody else, and have the rule of 6? How does that work?
Anna, would you forgive me if I dived in with my interpretation of this? Because the way I look at that is that when you are in the company of 6 people, the chances are you're going to be in their company for a bit longer than a bus or a train ride, or a bit longer than a trip to the supermarket. So although, yes, it's true, there's more than 6 people in those scenarios, the chances are you're probably not going to stand next to them or socialize with those people or be within close proximity to those people as you would be with that group of 6. Has that got something to do with it potentially?
I believe so. I think and this is something around, our study Attach is thinking about these attitudes and beliefs. It's confusing for people, just as Russ is asking, to ask those questions and to understand, if I'm allowed to be, why can't I have 7 people in my house where they can be with 6 people and go to the pub, for example? And so I think those are the challenges. It's yes, I would think that, on public transportation or out and about, you're not going to be in that close proximity for that longer period. But, I would suggest to individuals to, to continue to follow guidelines that they think, they can be more stringent than the guidelines, is what I would say. So if they don't feel comfortable doing the rule of 6, if you feel more comfortable, in 2s or 3s and keeping that your own bubble, then do so.
I'm very aware that there have been quite a few messages come in. You've got a good response here going on. So
they're loving you.
Some of the comments, you're ticking the right boxes, Anna. So thank you very much. Andy has said that she doesn't understand why and this again, it's all this confusion that's around. She says she doesn't understand why the government has not suggested that if people can't wear the face coverings, why don't they wear visors instead, which although is not as protective as a mask, if worn properly, can give some support. She also goes on to say that working in a GP practice, she says that they have to wear masks when dealing face-to-face with patients, but not if they are not if they're not with a patient. When walking around, she says that they don't have to wear them, and often she says she just has hers round her neck. Round the neck is a real common thing, isn't it? I mean, I can't count the number of times
yes, I see.
Around the neck. Your neck is not what needs covering.
No, yes, I've seen that as well. And I think to me, that's the area where we're just, where individuals don't know whether they want to follow guidelines or whether guidelines make sense. Because then you see, we have a key worker who is indicating that she's being told to wear a mask in different situations and would probably be penalized in the situation where she's not and isn't in the other, but feels that both situations have risk. And I would say, again, if you feel comfortable, if that does not make you feel comfortable, and I think that's about individuals' attitudes, then wear the mask in those additional situations, and wear them in when you're walking down the corridor if you feel that's right, even if it's not something that's mandated.
It always amuses me, and I don't mean amuses me, ha ha. I mean, I think it's out of nerves, to tell you the truth, when people say that, oh, but I don't like wearing face masks. Oh, diddums, for heaven's sakes, like nobody likes wearing. Who do you know, honestly, who have you met who said to you, oh, I love wearing a face mask, it's revolutionary? My mother has said she loves wearing it, but that's confidence issues, and I think she's bonkers to say it. But the point is that who do you actually know who loves wearing a face mask? And this is what I find unbelievable, is that people genuinely think that that is enough of an excuse to not wear one. It's well, I just don't like it. But don't we all have to do things we don't like sometimes?
I think that's the challenge. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And like I said, in our study, we're really trying to find out about that, because it's one of those areas where, yes, there's you constantly through our day, we do things that we don't like to do. And we try and pair that with things that we do like to do. So making sure that you have that balance. And you hope that, either your work environment is something you like to do, but that might not be the case. And so I think in a very short period of time, we've asked people to do en masse something that we've never asked them to do before. And I think trying to understand that at one stage, really just this big, just societal shift that we're asking people to do, but also really thinking about how do we get people to do that without seeing it as an inconvenience and as more as something about your community, that you're sharing something, you're showing that you care, that you're showing that you are protecting your fellow person, be it somebody you know, or be it somebody who's just walking down the street next to you, and really shifting that from something that's onerous that I now have to do, to something that I want to do because I want to be a person that is in my community and understands that I live next door to somebody who I don't know the person who'd like to live next door to me. Maybe you live in a big city, but maybe that person is at higher risk, and I can wear this mask to help them.
Amanda raised a really valid point here, because that was Andy working from a medical perspective, but interesting, Amanda's sort of offering the flip side of that. She says, because what really annoys her greatly is that unfortunately over the last few days, she's had several hospital appointments, and she has seen staff and nurses wearing their masks properly is anything but what she's actually seen. She says, must point out that these are private hospitals who are also under NHS contracts right now, but they don't wear their masks or wear them over their noses. So in other words, she'll see some people hospital staff wearing the mask over the mouth, but not necessarily over their nose. She said she was so annoyed by that she actually put in a complaint. And I think that that's a real interesting point, because that's actually, I think, the antithesis of where this goes wrong. Because as I mentioned before with Dominic Cummings, when we saw him misbehaving, I say misbehaving, I don't personally think what he did was that terrible. I don't think he should have done it, but I don't think it was that terrible realistically compared to what some people do. But the point is that we've seen Dominic Cummings not following the rules, and then we see people in authority who should know better not following the rules. So obviously Amanda has seen medical staff not wearing masks properly. But what really annoys me is that when you're in a supermarket where they say, please cover your face and please maintain 2 meter distance, and yet the staff, we know staff don't have to wear masks because they're in their bubble, they're in their work environment. We get that, I think, possibly. But then the staff would potentially say, barge in front of you, not maintaining 2 meters, to go and say, put something back on the shelf. And that's where I think it goes so horribly wrong, is you're seeing those who are in the position who should A, know better, and B, should be setting an example, not setting that example.
I would say that, that is true to some extent. I would say that, if I, have worked at, at the supermarket, though, I would consider that individual having the same level of knowledge as everybody else, depending on the guidance that they've been given by their employer. And so it's hard to say that those individuals are in authority if they're, working at a supermarket. You'd hope they, have been given guidelines for for appropriately wearing a mask. The other thing I would say is that, again, it's this really big change, really in a really short amount of time. So it's hard for that person. That was what they always did and however long they've worked at that supermarket, that's what they would do. If I have something I need to put it back, I put it back. And so now we're asking them to take that extra step, not wrongly, but I do think we have to think about that. It's not always deliberate. It is, and how do we work to get that to become deliberate? And I think that's the challenge, that it becomes, we understand. I think some things around mask wearing, I think it needs some wider dissemination. People need to understand it a little bit better about mask wearing. I really do agree in terms of how to wear a mask, touching your face while wearing a mask, not having your nose out while wearing a mask. And that could be done sort of at the higher level, to be able for individuals to really have that idea.
Anna, how thick are people? Come on. I agree with everything, but if you can't work out how to put a sodding mask on, why the hell have you got a driving license? This is the truth of it. Could it be any simpler? God damn. Let's look at the psychological aspects, which is your forte. Let's put aside the fact the economy is down the toilet, and this will probably take 10, 15, 20 years to recover, without a doubt. That's the honest truth about it. And whole swathes of industries have been trashed. Putting that to one side, the long-term psychological effects of all of this, is that something that you and your team are looking at? And what sort of early thoughts have you guys had?
Yeah, very much so. So just to let your audience know a little bit about the ATTACH study, so attitudes about COVID-19 and health. We're asking individuals of all ages, as long as you have access to a smartphone and live in the UK, to download the Air My Opinion app, and it's available on Google or Apple, to be able to track mental health over the course of this pandemic. And so if individuals who download the Air My Opinion app, what we ask them to do, if they consent to be in the study, is to be able to look at their daily ongoing, how they feel about COVID-19. Are they feeling hopeful? Is their mental health suffering? Are they able to follow the restrictions? And then each month, what we're asking individuals to do is to complete a survey, and we're getting measures of mental health during those surveys. And so, we just began the study, but we're really getting some interesting information around some of these mental health issues, particularly for some groups that maybe don't always feel that these studies represent them. And so we're really trying to target older adults, those with medical conditions, and those from underrepresented communities. And so right now we're seeing higher levels of anxiety, most definitely, social isolation. And one of the things, as I said, we're going to start looking at as we get more and more people in the study, is to be able to see if those do differ depending on on your age, or on your status, or if you're a key worker. And then the other thing we're interested in is parents right now as well, given the changes to going to school, so people can respond to this survey. So we're really getting daily responses as things change, and be able to track long term how people's mental health is doing. And our goal at the end of this is to be able then to provide a digital intervention for individuals who indicate that they would want to be part of the study, so that we can also treat the symptoms that we're seeing, even in individuals who maybe don't have an anxiety or depression disorder, but they have seen an increase in symptoms since COVID-19 began.
Has this spit up any surprises for you in terms of sort of the data that's gathered so far? Was there anything that maybe you weren't expecting, or can you not really go into that yet?
No, I think one of the things we're trying to do is to be able to talk about, I do have a couple of things pulled up. So we, as I said, we have daily surveys. And so yesterday's survey asked, on Wednesday, are you reassured by the government's response to COVID-19 currently? 58% of our current group have said no. Is it having a negative impact on your relationship with your spouse or significant other? We've got just over 30% saying somewhat or yes. And one of the really interesting things, I think, is have you felt hopeful about the future? We asked that on Tuesday, and only 28% of our sample currently said yes. So we're really seeing, really those are our daily responses. And then I'm seeing higher levels of anxiety than I normally would in a non-clinical sample. And, you know, when I work with patients who come in with an anxiety disorder, and definitely that level of isolation has increased as we've moved to, you know, all our interactions being, you know, either not having access to a computer to be able to have those extra interactions. So you know, especially older adults who might be alone, more alone right now. And so that's sort of what we're seeing right now. But we publish our results every day for the daily polls, so that people can see them on our Twitter and Facebook and online. And if you're part of the study, you can click and see them as well. So one of the things we want to be able to do is we're adding different questions as we move on to be able to capture what's happening right now in the moment. And then we're also making sure that we're capturing that information over the long term, so that we can see, you know, if how people are doing in September versus when we check in again with them in December.
And this
would it be helpful
Air
if
My Opinion application, isn't it? The Air My Opinion app.
Air My Opinion. So AIR.
Could you put it up, Phil? I'm sure you're about to do so. Would it be helpful if we got behind you at Men's Radio and Women's Radio? Because I think this is a really, really useful survey. I really do.
Oh, we would love that. Yes, yes. I mean, yeah,
I never like to impose. I don't always just assume people want to get involved with us. You know, there is more to it than just me and Phil, by the way.
No. I should say that we have support from a lot of charities. So we're working with the Sickle Cell Disease Society. We're working with Parkinson's UK, Crohn's and Colitis UK, and we're working with some mental health trusts as well. You know, we really are trying to make sure that we get individuals who are really trusting that and using it and letting us know their opinion. And Phil, you did ask if something was surprising. One of our, you know, some concerns were that, you know, would people who are over 50, over 60 download the app and use it? And so far, that does not seem to be a concern. We have participants in their 80s who are letting us know how they're doing via a smartphone app. So that's been great.
I bet they are, which is beautiful. I love to hear that. Anna, tell me this, because a lot of people think, all right, one of the arguments goes, and this is all psychological. I'm not trying to get into the medical side of it. I want to stick with your area of expertise and really what the radio is all about. A lot of people are thinking, you know what? Why the fuss? It's only going to kill old people. They were going to die anyway, or it's only going to kill. I mean, you know, the line gets trotted out. It's only going to kill people with the underlying issues, and they were going to die. So what the hell? Throw them under the bus. You know, why? You've stopped the world for people who are going to snuff it anyway. And I think a lot of people of a certain age just think you're being thrown under the bus here.
Oh goodness, I completely agree with that. I mean, it's so tough that when we weigh up a life, that you would take that we're taking that into account, as if an older life isn't a full life, or as if an individual with a medical condition isn't being fulfilled and fulfilling in society, and that their life, it doesn't matter and it isn't worth counting, and that we should discard a life because, you know, it's, you know, everybody has some form of you know, whatever it might be that, you know, doesn't quite fit into the norm. Nobody, you know, because there isn't really anything that is that, you know, particular norm. And it concerns me really on a psychological level that, you know, older adults are feeling that they might not be listened to, and feel that they are, I'm cautioned to say the word disposable, but they feel that in some ways they might be feeling that way.
Anna, that is the word. And you know, it's a horrible circle, which I feel very passionate about, having, you know, been in advertising. I was in advertising for many, many years. And every time they say, are you over 50? And they clearly show someone on the screen who's about 102. You know, in the same way that, hey, get a beauty product, you know, is your skin beginning to age? And they show some girl who's about 19. This is all madness. So, you know, this whole thing about, oh, you're over X age. It's over for you. Why don't you just, you know, jump off a cliff? It's a horrible, pervasive thing, which I think has deep psychological permutations and gets right into the psyche of society. I feel very strongly about it. I make light of it, but I feel very strongly about this.
Yeah, I think it's really, it's one of our concerns, and really why we wanted older adults and those with medical conditions in our study, because I really do feel genuinely that they don't feel like their voice is not even being heard right now, but maybe even being discounted. That, that this isn't, why am I having to do something that is, is only affecting you? And that's, I think, where we really do have to think psychologically about that community and thinking about ourselves as a community, and not just, you hear, have a parent, have a grandparent. Well, that's important, I believe, but it's also important just as a human to know there's another human out there who might be, suffering, because, they're older, and not to discount whether, what they're feeling and what's happening to them. And that's one of our biggest concerns, is that are we going to see some of these symptoms, anxiety and depression? And thinking about right now, as it's Suicide Awareness Month, are we going to see increases in really the most severe form of disorders right now?
I think it's, my personal non-medical opinion, but just coming from the heart, I think it's inevitable. I think it's absolutely inevitable.
A couple of minutes that we've been hearing that latest answer, I've downloaded the application. I've got it on my phone. I'm ready to take part. I'm all registered. I'm all good to go. I will do that after the show.
Me too. I'm going to get involved. I'm going to get involved.
So Air My Opinion is the name of the application, available on smartphone. Is it on both iOS and Android?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in English, Phil? In English for everybody else?
Oh, for God's sake. All right, it's available if you've got an Apple, a Samsung, or whatever phone you got. It's
whatever phone you have.
Thank you. Was that so tough? Anna, on a very personal note, may I just say I think you're the smartest guest we've had. Because everybody else turns out, I look like I'm a lumberjack.
Oh, I see.
And I'm hoping. It's very cheeky.
It's really
I'm hoping
tough.
it's a whole suit. I bet, or have you got I bet you got trackies on.
What is
I do?
Or your
definitely.
pajamas. I bet she's got pajamas on.
Pajamas on the bottom. Yes, most definitely.
I'm so happy you said that. I like you even more, and I like you loads. And now you're like, this is great.
Rudely implying is that you're only Zoom ready, but anyway.
This is it.
I am Zoom ready.
What the hell? This is the new world. This is the world we live in.
Thank you. Not just
bless you for this.
Everything you're doing, because honestly, I really believe, so looking just at the split second I've been looking at that app, I believe that the response that people give there would be such a comfort to those thinking, am I the only one who thinks like this?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And so happy that we've had you on the program. And I don't want to put you on the spot. Will you come back again, please?
Oh, I'd love to.
We would really like you to come back. You've been a terrific guest. And thank you for just explaining complicated stuff in a way that we all can get on board and go, yeah, I get that, as opposed to trying to blinding us with numbers and stuff, which never ever works. Bless you for that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much,
Anna.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Wow.
Well, she was great. She was great.
I'm
a terrific guest.
Worthless after today's show. Seriously, all of these people we're meeting that are incredible, and now I feel pointless anyway. Right, never mind.
Well, there you go, Phil. Yeah, well, I'm going to say it's an interesting thing, Phil. If we just had a load of absolute idiots, we provide that. Phil and I do that. We don't need any help for that. But if we just had guests who are complete twerps, everyone would be going, "What the hell they got them on?" We find these. I find people like Anna and Simon, they're just fascinating. They're just fascinating.
As in, I feel like we never have enough time with them.
Well, you could, especially with the guy who was a Marine and a policeman, there's so much to talk about.
Someone who we more often than not keep waiting unnecessarily, who we really shouldn't, is the person who gives us our weekly dose of glamour, of style, of pure elegance.
Are you allowed to say that anymore? Do we get arrested?
I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. So,
okay.
So on this program, when people have to either listen or put up with watching us, it's about high time that we introduced into the mix the sensational Chantal Ricard. Chantal, very good afternoon.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday indeed. Thank you so much indeed, as ever, for joining us. but just hang on a sec. I've just made all our name.
Always immaculate.
Hang on, let's
Have
do
you
that.
noticed? Have you noticed, everybody? She's always immaculate. Always. I've never seen anything but immaculate. It's annoying.
If Chantal
How does she
Rickards
do
is
it?
here, if Chantal Rickards is here, it could only be one thing. Now I've waited 2 weeks for this. Okay,
Oh, yeah, we're doing it today. We need cheering up.
Last week we couldn't.
Here we go.
It's time for this. There we go. It's time to talk television and just give ourselves a bit of breathing space, because yes, to anyone who is watching this for the first time, thinking, what on earth has gone wrong? We've gone from talking about COVID-19 and our attitude towards our mental health surrounding COVID-19 to talking television. Well, it's very, very simple. We make no apologies. Russ and I get a little bit drained by the end of this program, if we're honest with you. And frankly, we need to give ourselves a bit of a break and a bit of respite. And the person for the job is the sensational Chantal Rickards, who joins us now, who is a television guru, television and film guru, frankly.
Indeed.
Well, bless you. I mean, it's not a complete non sequitur, because telly is a wonderful way of making yourself feel good and finding things that, stretch your brain and just make you feel better about life, or sometimes actually make you realize that you're not the only person with the problems that you have. And actually, I know you were just talking with Anna about anxiety. And actually, that comes up in the first one or two suggestions that I've got for this week's viewing or this weekend's viewing pleasure. The first being a fantastic documentary that's just come out on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. And it's actually about people who get, it's about the impact of social media. And a lot of people take social media way too seriously.
Being added to the list as we speak.
Yeah. Indeed.
Chantal, you're so on point.
Anxiety, yes. Yeah, it creates anxiety.
You're so on point. I had a phone call today from a good friend who got trolled, and I've invited him onto the show. Phil doesn't know. He's coming on Monday.
Yeah.
And this is exactly, and he said to me on our phone, and we're close, we're good buddies, and he said, why did I get so upset? He doesn't know these people. And so this documentary you're talking about, absolutely right at the heart of, it's amazing you said that following the phone call I had this morning, quite randomly, by the way.
Well, it's a very well reviewed documentary. It's already gone straight to sort of the top of the Netflix ratings in the last 24 or 48 hours since it landed. It's very well thought through. It's slightly over stylized, but forget that. You sort of don't need to know that. That's a bit sort of telly talk. The information that's packed in it is completely fascinating.
Now, here's something, Chantal. Glassy Amanda, who is a professional counsellor, by the way.
Yeah.
She said, the social dilemma disturbed me beyond anything. Ed Grossman's come back and said, why?
Well,
it's interesting. Why would you think? I mean, we don't. You don't know, Amanda, but is it a disturbing thing? And thank you, Sue. By the way, thank you for watching. Have a great weekend too.
It is. It throws up many questions about the power of social media and who really has got the power and who regulates them, and also the impact that they have generally on fairly fragile minds, particularly with young people who, originally they all thought that it was a great thing. I mean, the purpose was the purpose for good, for a better world. The like button was created to share warmth and positivity. That's why they created it. It wasn't so that girls in their bedrooms would cry when they weren't getting enough likes on Facebook from the picture that they'd posted the day before, which is effectively what's happened. A lot of people now validate themselves through Facebook and their social media interactions. And if they don't get that love back, it actually makes them feel worse about themselves, not better about themselves. And it's also about persuasion. I mean, Russ, you and I, during our careers, have worked in advertising, and we understand that that's what it is. It is the art of persuasion.
Yep.
But I think what people now feel is that social media is the art of manipulation, not persuasion. And where it's gone from one to the other, it has become actually something to be worried about. And because of AI, artificial intelligence, which is now brought into the mix, we're looking at a future through social media that is not happy. I mean, I will leave your audience to have their own point of view, but it's absolutely something everybody has to watch.
Glassy Amanda is saying why she was so disturbed, because it's even more disturbing than I already thought. Remember, she's a professional counsellor. Even more disturbing than I already thought with what they're doing to us. And then she says, Facebook especially tracks our every move, our every emotion. Now I know why I search. When I search amazing, I'm getting Facebook adverts that match my Amazon search. Oh, every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
And actually, that's number 6 in the UK today.
Is it number 6?
Yeah,
okay.
number 6 on Netflix charts today, apparently.
It's definitely worth watching, just because I feel as though we all need to know exactly where we stand with this stuff. And we can either choose to be in it or we can get out of it. But I think if we're in it, we need to have a very honest opinion of actually how much good it's doing us, and whether we just need this constant validation from other people with, likes and smileys and selfies, and, girls who will only have their picture put up online if they've got a filter on, if it's making them look better, which clearly is not very real. Anyway,
let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the point. When we first met, you hadn't yet gone to LA to be CEO of BAFTA.
Yeah.
You were one of the top marketing people in London, without a doubt. That's how we met, and persuasion is our business. If I'd have said to you then, we were walking, having one of our endless coffees or whatever we were doing, I said, you know what? There's Friends Reunited, and one day the offspring of Friends Reunited will run the world. Would you have thought I was raving mad?
No, I'm absolutely not. I would have thought that it was such a brave new world at the time, and everybody was incredibly hopeful that it would be, something really exciting. I don't think we saw it as being malevolent, and I think it can be malevolent, and that's what we've got to worry about. So it's an interesting point. We've come a very long way, and this stuff is getting renewed every single day and growing and growing and growing in terms of the intelligence that it brings to what it does. So it's not going to go away, and it's probably not going to get any better.
People piling in with their questions for you, by the way. This is the reaction you're having. Andrew Eborn, the top. What was that? Oh, I don't know if you're liking Chantel's top or you're saying something else. I don't know. Ed Grossman. So Ed and I are kind of similar age. Chantel, even people of our age get upset when we don't get likes. That's how bad it is. Ed, I'm really amazed that you it can't be you, surely. Can't be you. And Ramsey Y. Masalam, Ramsey, hi. Please ask Chantel if she's seen the BBC documentary about the second word pilot, Eric Winkle Brown. Eric Brown. What a hero.
No.
What an amazing 59 minutes about the most understated British hero. Oh, he was an amazing fella. I haven't seen the documentary, but I'm familiar with him. An amazing fella.
Well, it sounds like a great documentary to watch, especially if it's an amazing story about an amazing life, because I'm sure that will make us feel better about our own lives, and somebody who's, served their country in that way. Yeah. In a way, it's a little bit, not a total non sequitur, but to mention both the BBC documentaries Missing People, which has just finished a 4-part run, and the series Ambulance that came back onto the BBC this week.
Oh, wow.
Not only are the people themselves who are our carers and, the ambulance workers and the police service, incredible people, but actually listening to those human stories mostly is uplifting. And actually, I think that if you feel pretty miserable about yourself, that actually seeing other people's stories and having an understanding that you're not alone and that there is light at the end of the tunnel is a really good thing. So I think they're very uplifting, both of them.
Amazing. And actually, can we changing the subject ever so slightly? And obviously, the subject is television, but in terms of things that I've discovered, this first and foremost, can I just say, with Death in Paradise, which I've become a bit obsessed with, Death in Paradise. I've entered the Chris Marshall period.
Oh, the best. To me, the best. I think that's the absolute best.
I hate to say this, I'm not feeling it so far. I'm really not feeling. I'm still very much mourning the loss of Ben Miller, if I'm honest.
I thought Chris Marshall nailed it. I thought he was.
Okay, all right, fine. Well, maybe I need to give him more of a chance. But anyway,
he becomes very charming. It becomes less formulaic, and he becomes more charming, I think is the word.
Okay.
More
Yes.
endearing.
And there's a lovely love story to come, so that's good too, if that's where you're up to so far.
Look
He
out
marries
for
a palm tree. Now,
some work. But the other thing I was-
Chantal, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, go on, Phil.
No. So the other thing I was going to say, because I don't know whether or not either of you two have stumbled across this, and I've stumbled across it this week. And in a million years, I never thought I would ever recommend anything like this, because I'm not sure what I feel about it yet. But I'm just interested to know if either of you two have seen it. Have you heard of a BBC? Well, it's on the BBC. I don't think it's from the BBC, but it's on the BBC, called "What We Do in the Shadows."
No.
Okay,
I'm going
now
to write that down. I definitely haven't heard of that.
What We Do in the Shadows is a very alternative comedy in the form of a mockumentary. Okay, so anyone who doesn't know what a mockumentary is, it's where it's satirical, where they do, you know, these ridiculous programs that you more often than not will see on Channel 5, where you have a little bursts of clips of real life situations, and then they cut to someone commentating on it. So in other words, it'll be someone probably from that real life situation where they're sitting a bit like I am now, where they just sort of start talking directly to the camera and saying, well, I mean, at the time I didn't really understand it. You know, it was all just, it was how it was supposed to be. I realize now that it wasn't, it's that kind of nonsense, but it's a mockumentary on the life of vampires.
Oh, God. That's so not on my list of things to watch.
It sounds ridiculous. It sounds so ridiculous, but I'm ashamed it made me laugh.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'll get to that this weekend.
No, I'm not sure. I don't know how.
Can we get the professional opinion from Chantal about David Tennant as Dennis Nilsson? Holy moly!
I've started it. I wasn't going to mention it today unless you brought it up. The reason that
it's your section, so you if you don't want to talk about it, don't. Whatever you want to do.
I'm going to tell you why, because I think it's worth saying why. Clearly, the story of Dennis Nilsson is pretty damn tough, as I'm sure people will remember. He was a mass murderer from the 1970s in North London, killing young men. A horrible, horrible, horrible story. All I would say is, if you don't want that stuff in your head, don't watch it. Simply don't take it on board. Television is absolutely wonderful, but if you're feeling even vaguely fragile, don't go and watch a 3-part series about a mass murderer.
Let me ask
Having said that, David Tennant is unbelievably good.
Off the hook.
Scale.
And the guy playing Mr. Roy, the detective chief inspector, is unbelievable. And I wrote to him yesterday.
Yeah, I have only watched the first episode. Yeah,
let me ask.
I've only watched the first episode. I think it's going to be tremendous.
My partner, whom you have met, said, "Why we?" Because I said, "Oh, you got to watch this thing," and it got rather cross, unlike, and said, I can't. Why programs like this deifying these people? Why are we giving them any time? And I said, they're not. They're showing him what a extraordinarily horrible, disgusting psychopath this guy was. So you're not glamorizing it in any, it's not NCIS. You're not glamorizing this guy.
Indeed.
It's not Face Off, with Travolta and the other. But the acting is incredible.
It is. I mean, David Tennant, I think, is one of the best British actors, Scottish, indeed British and Scottish, that we have. And he can turn his hand to anything. He's
anything
really,
at all. He
really
can be
talented.
funny and charming. And then I'm not going to spoil the ending because we know the ending, but his performances, you think, the control, it was just.
Yeah.
And the other thing that amazed me, and this talk about the power of television, which you know more than anybody on the planet practically about, every single scene, everyone is smoking. And I actually thought I could smell the smoke, and I thought, I'm going to have a bath or a shower. Of course, it was all in my head. Nobody was smoking.
Yeah.
But on the screen, everything, even in court, just outside the court, you've forgotten that.
Yeah.
You've forgotten all of that was part of our world.
I know. It's extraordinary when you look back on it, and it dates a piece absolutely instantly when you see people smoking.
Can I ask you a technical question about this?
Yeah.
Because it had that sort of slightly grainy old look. When they show sometimes some of the old shows like The Sweeney or whatever,
Yeah.
They look kind of grainy now, and somehow they'd made it look like you were looking at something from that era.
Yeah.
Is that a process?
Yes, it's all done in post-production, and you can certainly play with lighting so that the lighting is slightly reduced, because it will have been strip lighting in those days. It will have been sort of slight, it wouldn't have been mood lighting. So they'll enhance that, but generally that's a sort of filmic process that you put on in post-production in the edit.
It was what was fascinating was looking back only a very relative terms, a very few years, and thinking, all of that has gone. But I'll tell you this about conditioning. There's a scene, I'm not going to be graphic, don't worry. There's a scene when they go into Dennis Nielsen's house for the first time in Muswell Hill. And of course, they're wearing masks. It didn't occur to me why they were. I thought, well, they're wearing masks. Of course, we're all wearing. I thought, you idiot, of course they're wearing masks. There's bodies there. But when I saw it, it looked completely normal. Isn't that just the way we get conditioned like that?
Absolutely.
Just like, like that.
Indeed.
I laughed at myself, at my own stupidity when I saw it. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, in terms of acting and the way
it's marvelous.
Made, it's called Des. It's on ITV Hub, and David Tennant is ferociously good in it. So creepy.
An interesting title, because I wouldn't have come up with a title like that for the program.
Never.
But it's all very well done. Another thing I've seen this week that has just started, and it's slightly peculiar. It doesn't quite fit into a normal television shaped box. Is something called The Third Day on Sky, with Jude Law, and it's a psychological mystery. He disappears to an island in Essex, which is spelled, and I don't know how to pronounce it, so excuse me, OSEA, which I presume is OC. And the island actually exists, and you can only get to it via a causeway. And it is the island that attracts the Jude Law character to go there, where very strange things happen. And he is surrounded by very strange people, and all confined because the tide comes in and he can't get off the island. The second episode is going to be done live. Now, that's rare in television. Yeah, absolutely. So take a look at it. It's quite different. It's quite eerie. It's challenging. It's dark. It's pretty bleak, but I think it's rather good. And Jude Law is excellent. Again, he's a great actor, Jude Law. I think Sky were really lucky to get him to do a TV show for them. In fact, the last thing we saw him do was the Last Pope, which was very successful. So anyway, take a look at it. It's interesting. I'm slightly reserving judgment because I've only seen the first episode, but it's looking as though it's going to be pretty good.
I'm confused how they're going to do it live. I mean, I understand that, but
so am I. So am I.
And why?
Yeah.
Why bother?
Don't know. And then just for a bit of scurrilous telly, because I know that we've talked about it 2 or 3 times, we never quite got into it, and I know there are just a couple of minutes left. We've talked about Entourage, which is an American comedy drama. It's actually very loosely based around the life of Mark Wahlberg, the the Bostonian actor. It's sort of about his life of coming to Hollywood as a young actor and being very successful, but bringing all his buddies with him, his posse, his gang. And they've replicated that with 4 people who come from New York, arrive in Los Angeles and behave incredibly badly. But the comedy is wonderful. There is an agent, an Uber agent, who is very loosely based on the real life agent, Ari Emanuel. And this guy is called Ari in the TV series.
Ari Gold.
By Jeremy Piven, who was Mr. Self-Employed.
Oh, Jeremy Piven, yes.
We love Jeremy
Just
Piven.
Tremendous. And it is very funny. It's very naughty. There are a lot of scantily clad girls. The comedy is very, very well written. They did 8 series. It really tailed off towards the end. But if you're looking for something that's fun and silly and actually tells you quite a lot about Hollywood that you didn't know, because a lot of it is absolutely true, then watch Entourage. And that's on Sky and on Amazon, I think. Yeah.
Yes, it's a great show, isn't it? It's just a great show. Even thinking, oh, hang on. They actually filmed, Glassy Amanda says they actually filmed Entourage in Mark's real house. Love Jeremy Piven in it. Can you imagine? They actually did it in.
That I didn't know. They film us a lot of the local LA and Hollywood landmarks because I know quite a lot of them, but I don't know Mark Wahlberg's house.
Speaking of the high street next to the kebab shop, somebody else is already above the kebab shop.
Speaking of which, the ideal opportunity to remind people actually of the Netflix series Hollywood that actually is still out there, is still available. So if you've not watched Hollywood yet, for heaven's sakes, watch it because I think it's fantastic. Anyway, Chantal, thank you as always.
Thank you very, very much.
To have you, and hopefully we'll see you this time next week.
Good seeing you. Yeah, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy your telly watching.
And
bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, she's always so nice.
That's
she's
it.
Always so nice.
My goodness me, what a show.
What a show. I'm going to have a lie down on the sofa that I still have.
Yeah. Long story. Thank you very much to Gail Nichols, to Jade Tonkinson. Also, thank you to Simon Martin. What an incredible individual.
Oh,
thank you very much. Anna Hood and, of course, Chantal Rickards. But, of course, we have to say thank you to you for watching or listening, and also for your comments and just being a part of the program. If you are so inclined, by the way, might I suggest that to anyone who is celebrating the Jewish New Year, Shana Tova to you. If you are not, then just happy Friday, one way or another. Have a good weekend. And why not? Let's do it all over again on Monday, shall we?
Why not? Where we'll be joined by Mr. Ray Gelato.
Ah, there we go. That's who our mystery guest is. Mark.
It is.
Ray. See you then. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye.